So guys, what if Teen Naruto had unseen powers and a mysterious cult movie? Naruto tried to ignore the Kyuubi that was bugging him to wake up. 10 more minutes. When Naruto was at the age of 6 he found out about the Kyuubi inside of him. At first he thought it was his imagination, but over time with the villagers still treating him like shit and the names they were calling him like demon and freak, he was able to put the two together. At first only the Hokage treated him like a son. Over the years up until he was 12 it was only him and the Kyuubi who was like his second father, teaching him the jutsus that he learned over the hundreds of years that he lived, giving the child the same level of jutsus as the Hokage himself. But what was really interesting was when Naruto hit the age of 9, when the Kyuubi's spirit started to mold into the boy's body, giving him increased sense of smell, sight and hearing as a fox. Over time the Kyuubi watched over and taught Naruto how to handle the new changes in his body, also telling that there would be more when he got older. Kid, you have to get up and meet your team for training. Naruto slowly got out of bed and looked around, half asleep still. It doesn't matter, Kakashi-sensei won't be there for another hour, and even when he does show up he's just going to be training Sasuke and not me. Naruto could hear the demon fox sighing and agreeing with the boy, but Naruto knew he had to do this. He put on his orange jumpsuit and started to walk down the street. As he walked to the training area, hands in his pocket and head to the ground, he could still hear all the insults and feel their glares. Stupid demon brat should just leave. I know, what a loser. Just then Naruto was hit in the head by a rock. He could have dodged it, but he didn't care anymore. Go back to hell, you bastard demon. Everybody laughed and pointed fingers at the 14-year-old boy as he placed his hand on the spot. He looked at his hand to see it was covered in blood. Inside Naruto's head the Kyuubi was furious. How dare they attack you? Let me out so I can feed on their flesh. Naruto just ignored everyone and continued to walk to the training ground. When he got there, Sasuke was leaning up against the bridge railing with Sakura on his right, pleading for him to go on a date. And of course Sasuke saying no. The two looked up to see Naruto walking towards them, his head to the ground and his happy attitude gone. Sakura glared at Naruto. "Ner, have you been Doby? You're late." Naruto just walked past both of them, sorry, and headed over to a tree and sat down. Naruto took out a scroll and started to read it, trying to learn new moves. Sakura just glared at Naruto, not satisfied by his answer, and stormed over to him. Before she could yell though, Sasuke interrupted. "What happened?" Naruto, knowing what he was referring to, didn't even look up. "I fell." Sakura just laughed. "Stupid dope." Here, Naruto looked up at Sasuke to see him giving him a handkerchief. This surprised Sakura. Sasuke knew full well what really happened. Ever since they got back from Wave, Naruto got more and more powerful and tactful. This confused Sasuke and he decided to follow him around. What he saw was that every single village member over the age of 30 hated him. Naruto took the handkerchief and wiped the blood off. As soon as he was done, Kakashi showed up and smirked. "I am sorry I am late, but I got lost on the way here." Sakura screamed out, "Liar," and Naruto just ignored them all and went back to reading. Kakashi saw this and looked a little puzzled but pushed it aside. "Today I will spar with Sasuke." Sasuke looked over to Naruto, who was still reading. "What about Naruto?" "He will train with Sakura on chakra control." Sakura let out a great sigh of annoyance and pointed her thumb back at Naruto, who was still reading but listening in on the conversation. "I don't want to work with the Doby. Naruto can't do anything right." "Don't worry about me." Everyone turned back to Naruto, who finally stopped reading and looked up at everyone with no expression on his face. "I am reading up on some jutsu skills." Kakashi smiled. Naruto saw this and gave an evil smirk. "Plus it's not like it's the first time you've ignored me in training." Kakashi's smirk faded into a frown. "Well, now because of that smart-ass remark you've just won 50 laps around the village. Go." "Whatever." Naruto put his scroll away and started to jog off with Sakura laughing at him from behind. "I bet I am the only one going through crap like this." The Hidden Sound Village. In one of the training areas, a 14-year-old girl wearing khaki black and blue camouflage pants, and a green sleeveless jacket with a matching black and blue camouflage scarf around her neck, and black wrist bangles, was on her hands and knees sweating, was trying to catch her breath. Her long black hair covered most of her face and black eyes. "You're so weak and useless, Kin." Kinsuchi looked up and glared at her two teammates who were looking down at her, smiling with their arms crossed. "You can't even keep up on a C rank mission with us, let alone AD. Weak, stupid woman." Kin slowly got to her feet and wobbled a little trying to get some balance. Her body and face were bruised and beaten. I am not weak, I'll show you weak. Kin screamed as she ran forward only to be punched in the gut hard by the bandaged ninja Duzu. Kin's eyes went wide as she fell to her knees holding her gut in pain. Zaku walked up to her and smiled. You know what happens to ninjas who can't keep up. Kin knew right away what happened. They were pronounced missing nin and then killed. That won't happen. Just then their sensei arrived and looked at the view in front of him with a smirk. Well Kin, I see you're getting what you deserve for messing up again. Kin looked to the ground in despair. Even her sensei had no faith in her. You alone have ruined the reputation of this team. I am just glad your parents aren't around to see this. That got to Kin and a single tear fell to the ground. Which reminds me, Kin, Orochimaru would like to see you tomorrow afternoon about your progress. Kin knew what it was about and just kneeled there in shock as her team went to train without her. Nobody else in this world could possibly be having a worse day than this. Naruto was performing his jogs around the village when suddenly he was tripped by a person. With a thud to the ground, Naruto slowly sat up looking at the 30-year-old man who was now laughing at him. What the hell is your problem, you old geezer? Naruto looked at his right to see Ino Yamanaka running to his side and helping him up. You feel proud of yourself picking on a kid. The man glared at Ino. I feel great picking on a demon. Ino, confused with the statement, glared at the man. Look in a mirror, pal. The man just glared and walked off. Naruto got to his feet and dusted himself off with the help of Ino. I could have gotten up myself. Naruto looked at Ino, who was smiling. I know. Thanks. Ino smiled even brighter. Naruto saw this and took chance into the wind. Hey, do you want to get a drink, my treat? Ino blushed a little. I would like that. So the two set off to a store. While walking, Naruto decided to start the conversation. So how are things with you? Ino sighed and placed her arms behind her head. Not good. My parents are always fighting. That's actually one of the reasons why I am out here and not at home. Sometimes I just want to leave and run away. You know what I mean. Naruto smiled. I know what you mean, and I am sorry to hear that. This was the first time ever that Ino heard Naruto like this. He was so much more polite and dignified. So what about you? Well, I am on a team that totally ignores me and idolizes Sasuke. I am socially declined. Out of all us rookie 9, I am said to be the most incapable and stupid, so in all I could be better. Sorry to hear that. In truth, Ino never really liked Sasuke. Sure, she thought he was all that until she caught Naruto training by himself. His skill level clearly make him not to be the dobe everyone made him out to be. After that, she started to watch him closely and noticed that he would always go out of his way to help others even if they made fun of him. She came to the conclusion with herself that she really liked Naruto and not Sasuke. She would only put on the Sasuke act to piss off Sakura. Naruto, not wanting to get Ino kicked out of store with him, decided to purchase the drinks from a vending machine. The two then sat down on a bench and just sat in silence until Naruto cleared his throat and stood up. I should get back now. He then started to laugh, which startled Ino. Sometimes I wonder if anyone would even miss me if I left this village tomorrow. Thanks for listening, Ino. See you later. Naruto ran off, leaving Ino to just wave back sadly. That's not true. I would miss you. Naruto arrived back at the training area to see Kakashi and Sasuke fighting, with Sakura on the sideline cheering on Sasuke, who was losing. Naruto walked up beside Sakura and watched the match and decided to speak up. Sasuke, after he finishes his attack, strike his left leg. Sasuke was too busy to hear what he said, but a loud-mouthed pink-haired girl heard every word and wasn't too happy. Shut up, Dobi. Sasuke doesn't need advice from a dead last like you. Naruto sighed. I am only trying to help. If you want to help, you should just leave this team and village. Nobody would miss you anyway. That remark caused Naruto to go into shock and caused the spar between Kakashi and Sasuke to stop and put full attention into the conversation. I mean, that's why your parents left you, right? Because they saw what everyone else sees, a failure. Rage filled every once of Naruto's and Kyuubi's being. Kill her, Kit. Kill her now. Naruto calmed his nerves and turned his back on his group. Naruto, she didn't mean that. Naruto turned back to Kakashi. No, she meant every word. And she's right. What's the point in living in a village that doesn't care about your life? Kakashi was about to make a remark, but Naruto stopped him at it. Don't, sensei. I was always thinking about leaving, but this was the icebreaker. He then turned to the whole team in general with a sad-looking Sasuke and a happy Sakura. "Oh, and forehead bitch." Sakura glared at Naruto. "Let me show you what a dead last can really do." Naruto bit his finger and performed some hand seals. Once complete, he slapped his hand on the ground, causing a cloud of smoke. The same thought was going through everyone's head. That's a high-level summon. Where did he learn this? Once the smoke cleared, a red two-tailed fox the same size as Kakashi stood with green eyes. "You summoned me, Naruto." "Yeah, Nito. Take me to see the Hokage." "Of course, hop on." Naruto jumped onto the back of the fox as if he were riding a horse. "Naruto, how are you able to summon a talking summon?" Naruto and Nito turned to face them, with Nito growling at them, feeling Naruto's anger towards them. "There's a lot you don't know about me, sensei. Oh, and don't send anybody after me or I will kill them." With that, Nito ran off, leaving the three in shock. In the Hokage's office, Satomame was busy doing paperwork. He stopped and slowly rubbed his eyes and looked to his balcony to see Nito sitting out on the balcony. The sight caused the old man to sigh in sorrow. "Hello, Nito." The red fox bowed his head. "Good afternoon, Hokage." "Well, where is Naruto?" "Right here, old man." Satomame turned in front of him to see Naruto sitting in a chair in front of his desk. "I want to tell you personally that I am leaving the village." The old Hokage sighed, seeing the whole situation on his crystal ball. "I guess I should try and stop you, but it seems your mind is made up." Naruto only nodded, causing him to sigh again. "I can't live in a place where I only have 5 people who talk to me with respect and without using demon bastard in every sentence." "And who would that be?" "You, Iruka-sensei, Anko, Ibuki and..." Naruto paused for a second. "And Ino-chan, I just want to ask you not to declare me a missing nin. I do plan on coming back one day when I am not seen as the villain." The Hokage stood up and walked over to a cabinet and opened it, with Nito and Naruto watching his every move. "Naruto, I would never do that to you, but where do you plan to go?" The old man took out a large envelope and walked back in front of Naruto, who stood up to meet him. "I plan on going to Wave for a while to train. After that I really don't know." "Well, here, take this. It's not much, but I've been planning on giving this to you in case of an emergency." Naruto opened the envelope and looked with wide eyes at the amount of money that was in there. "You've earned it." Naruto hugged the old man and caught him off guard, but he hugged back. "Thank you, Satomame, for everything." After that, Naruto hopped back onto Nito and the two were off to their new life. Below the Hokage's tower, a certain blonde female ninja saw Naruto exit the roof onto of a huge red fox. "Naruto, write down some notes. And lastly, I don't need a beta right now, but if I do, you'll be the first person I ask. Thank you." Well, now on to chapter 2. New meetings. Kin slowly walked into the Hokage's office with her head hung low, knowing full well that this wasn't going to end well. She slowly opened the door to see Orochimaru sitting at his desk with 3 ill-looking Chunin standing behind him. The Snake Man smiled as Kin walked into the office and sat down in a chair in front of them all. "Well, Kin Suchi, your sensei has been telling me that you're having some difficulty with your transgression as a ninja." Kin leapt off of her seat and decided to plead. "Please, Hokage, let me have another chance to prove myself." Orochimaru moved his hand for Kin to sit down, which she did. "That's why you're here, Kin. I want you to accompany these 3 on a mission to test your skill to wave. They will give me an evaluation on your progress and we shall see where to go from there." Kin was not a stupid girl and saw the look Orochimaru gave one of the men. "I'll buy my time and try to escape from them when they're not paying attention." Kin then put on a fake smile. "Oh, thank you, Hokage, I won't let you down." "That you won't." Once everyone left his office, Orochimaru's smirk faded into a glare. "So what do you think? Another good sacrifice if I do say so myself." Just then a large thin cloaked figure walked out of the shadows from behind the snake ninja. It seemed with every step he took dark energy formed on the ground. It would seem. His voice was calm but stern with no emotion whatsoever. Hearing this response, Orochimaru laughed. "What's wrong? She's even a virgin. That should please your master, right?" "That it would, but this girl seems different." The figure then walked in front of the desk and looked down at the man through his cloak. "I will send one of ours to watch over things." "Whatever, just remember the deal." The figure nodded. "The Anubanati to do not back down on a contract. Just keep giving us human bodies for the ritual, and you shall receive your reward." Orochimaru smiled and hissed, "A demon body to last me all of time." The cloaked figure nodded again. "Of course, a deal is a deal," and with that the figure exploded into a cloud of darkness and was gone. After 5 hours of non-stop running, Kin and the group of Chunins were making great time and would reach Wave within an hour and a half. Kin thought that if there was any time to put her plan into action it would be now. Quickly reaching into her pocket, Kin pulled out a smoke bomb and threw to the ground. With the other ninjas vision impaired, Kin ran off in a different direction and ended up in a clearing where she tried to catch her breath. I did it, but where am I going to go now? Just then her sentence was cut short by 2 kunai that hit her in each leg, causing her to fall on her knees and cry out in pain. She looked up with her tear-filled eyes to see the 3 ninja all around her. One that was in front of her had his katana drawn and looked down at the scared girl. Kin Suchi, you have been deemed unfit and unworthy to serve under the village of the sound. As a ninja you've shown us no improvement and are weak and useless. Your punishment is death. The ninja rose his blade in the air about to strike the scared girl when all of a sudden another kunai out from the darkness of the tree came and impaled itself in the forehead of the ninja, who fell backwards on the ground dead. The other 2 along with Kin were looking around for the cause of their comrade's death, in Kin's case her supposed executioner, when suddenly a voice was heard in the trees all around them. Killing off a fellow ninja just because she needs extra help. Just then Naruto emerged from the trees and stood in front of them all with his arms crossed and a foxy grin on his face. I never really heard anything about sound, but if this is how they treat their fellow ninja, I don't like them already. Kin looked at him with wide eyes. Here is a boy around the same age as her and he just leveled a Chunin without breaking a sweat. The other 2 ninjas took out their swords and got battle ready. Ninja from Leaf, this matter does not concern you, but since you have attacked and killed one of us, you will now die with her. Naruto started to laugh out loud. I don't think so, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. He then threw his arms to the side and out of his sleeves 3 kunai was placed in each hand. Remember it in the afterlife. Naruto threw all 6 kunai at one of the ninjas who tried to block them with his blade. The sheer strength that the knives were thrown broke the mon's sword, causing him to be hit in the throat twice and the rest in his chest. The other ninja saw his choice and attacked Naruto from behind. But before his blade could make contact with the back of Naruto's head, he was tackled to the ground by Nieto and pined. The last thing the man saw before he died was 2 full sets of razor-sharp teeth approaching his face. Kin couldn't believe what she just saw and was in total shock. Naruto Uzumaki. Her thoughts were interrupted by a voice. Are you okay? Kin looked up at Naruto. I said, are you okay? Kin immediately tried to back away but fell on her back and got back on her knees. Naruto could see she was afraid and tried to calm her down. He knelt down in front of her. Hey, it's okay, they won't hurt you anymore. Kin just leapt onto Naruto and hugged him tightly. Thank you. Naruto slowly pushed her off but still had his hands on her shoulder. Well, I haven't had human flesh in such a long time. Both teens turned to see Nito licking his chomps. Kind of taste like chicken. Naruto just smiled at his friend. Well, don't get used to it. But you did do a great job, so as a reward you can clean up the bodies. Nito smiled and licked his teeth again, and after that I'll unsummon you. Thanks. Naruto picked up Kin, which surprised her, and carried her away. Come on, I'll take you somewhere else to clean those wounds. I doubt you want to see what Nito's about to do. Kin was just speechless and nodded her head. Once the 2 got to a different part of the woods, Naruto placed Kin down on the ground as gently as possibly, and looked at her straight in the eyes. This might hurt. Kin just stared into his deep blue eyes and could do nothing but blush, pure blue. Just then pain shot through Kin's legs as Naruto pulled out the blades and threw them to the ground. She looked up to see Naruto perform some hand seals and his hands started to glow, so Kin was it. Why yeah, Kin Suchi. That's a nice name. I am Naruto Uzumaki. He extended his hand, which Kin took, and the 2 shook. Now your legs should be all better, but you might have a limp for a while. Naruto stood up and so did Kin, who wobbled a little but got her balance. So Kin, do you want me to take you back to your family? Kin suddenly flinched at the mention of her parents. My parents were killed on a mission and I have no relatives, and as you can see I can't go back to the village of the sound unless I have a death wish. Naruto placed his hand under his chin and started to think. I know you're going to get pissed off with this idea, Fox. Not really, it would be good for you to talk to another human. So you wouldn't mind? Of course not, we can train her to become stronger, and she has a nice body. Naruto mentally blushed. Perverted Fox, I wasn't thinking about that. The Kyuubi laughed out loud. Oh yes you were. Remember, I am in your mind. I know what's really going on here. This conversation is over. Naruto looked back at Kin, whose head was tilted to the side, wondering what was wrong with him. Naruto just smiled. "Oh Kin, if you have nowhere else to go, why not travel with me?" Kin looked at Naruto nervously. "You mean go with you back to Leaf? The sound isn't really welcome there." Naruto looked up at his headband and smiled. "I am not with Leaf anymore since yesterday." Kin looked at Naruto questionably. "So you're a missing nin?" "No, I and the Hokage are good friends and I convinced him not to make me a missing nin." "So why did you leave?" Naruto had a sudden sad expression on his face. "Let's just say that I wasn't really welcome there either, so what do you think, two heads are better than one?" Kin crossed her arms and glared at Naruto. "You're not trying to get fresh with me, are you?" Naruto, not really having a social life, didn't understand what she meant. "I don't know what you mean." "You know what I mean. Wait till I let my guard down and then take advantage of me." Naruto squinted his eyes trying to understand what she meant, when it suddenly hit him and his eyes widened and quickly placed his hands in front of him. "What? I would never do something like that. I mean, we could help each other train and get stronger, and you are now most likely a missing nin now, and we can watch each other's back." Kin thought about it and nodded her head. "Now that does sound like a good idea, and I am sorry for accusing you. You did just save my life. As you can see, it's hard for me to trust people." Naruto smiled. "I know what you mean." The two began to walk into the trees. Naruto slowed down his pace so that he was beside Kin, who was limping a little still. "So where to?" Naruto. "Well, first we'll head to Wave. I have friends there and we can train there for a while." Kin looked to the ground and needed to ask Naruto an important question. Naruto. "Yeah, Kin. Well, I was just wondering, you took out those chunins like nothing. How strong are you?" "Well, actually they were hunternins, and I don't know, I am always training to try and get stronger, but I guess I have my stepfather to thank for that." The Kyuubi inside Naruto was practically crying tears of joy that Naruto would call him his stepfather. Kin was impressed. "You must have a very powerful stepfather. I only wish that I could be that strong. Then I would show my old team that I can be strong and powerful." Naruto smiled. "Well, you will, Kin." Kin wiped her head towards Naruto and looked at him as if he was crazy. "I will help train you, then nobody will ever call us weak ever again." Kin simply smiled. Naruto watched her smile and gave his foxy trademark smirk. "She is really pretty when she smiles. See, kid, a perfect match if I do say so myself." "Don't jump the gun, Kyuubi, I just met her, and I don't have a good reputation with women." "I guess you've never heard of love at first sight. Only in fairy tales, and that's it. Besides, who would want to be with a duh?" Naruto never got to finish his sentence as the Kyuubi knew where he was going and would not have that sort of talk. "Don't you even think about finishing that sentence. Do not listen to those moronic human flesh bags." Kin could see Naruto's hurtful eyes and got worried. "Are you okay, Naruto?" Naruto immediately put on a smile and turned to Kin. "Of course everything is alright, Kin. It's going to be a while till we get there, so why don't you tell me about yourself, like what kind of style you use and anything else, like favorite food?" Kin placed a finger under her chin and looked up at the sky thinking. "Well, alright, well, my style is basically sound." She went into her pocket and pulled out a bell attached to a needle. "Well, the bell here is attached to this needle, which is on a string. If I can hit an opponent with this needle and have it stick to them, I can then move the string, causing the bell to cause a sound. Now the sound that the bell makes affects the person in question's brain waves, causing him, if I see fit, to have illusions or cause massive mind-splitting headaches, rendering him useless." Naruto whistled at this. "That's a very effective attack if you can pull it off." Kin looked at Naruto shocked. "You really think so?" "Of course I won't lie about something like that. A style like that would be very effective in team attacks, giving your teammates an opportunity to strike the enemy when he's incapacitated, not to mention it could make a great way for a quick getaway." Kin could only smile. "Thank you. Usually my teammates would make fun of my style, calling it weak and useless. Nobody's ever complimented me like that." "Well, then your teammates were the ones who were weak if they couldn't see that." Kin blushed and looked down at the ground. "My mother was the one who taught me how to use the bell. Her and father were called by the Hokage to go on a mission. I never saw them again after that. I now know for sure that Snake Bastard killed them like he tried to do to me. I was never trained properly. My teammates and sensei called me weak and useless because I am a girl and don't have the same physical strength as a man." Naruto stopped and walked over to a tree and knocked on it 3 times. This confused Kin, but Naruto started to talk while taking large steps to the right side of the tree. That is total bullshit. If anything, I think a woman can easily become a stronger ninja than a man. Naruto came to a stop and dug into the ground in front of him, picking up his backpack and sleeping bag. He threw them over his shoulder, and walked up in front of Kin. I mean, they might not be as physically as strong as a man, but strength isn't the point of a ninja. Speed and stealth is, and when it comes to that, it's usually a woman who is on top. Naruto, noticing what he said last, quickly tried to recover. Of the situation, on top of the situation I meant. Kin giggled at Naruto's quick save. So tell me about yourself, Naruto. Naruto took a deep sigh. Well, when I was a ninja of the leaf, I was like you. My sensei wouldn't bother to teach me because I had the reputation of having the lowest score in the academy. For that reason I was called the dead last. Kin could see that he was having some trouble speaking. I have no parents. Did they die? I don't know. I've been alone since I can remember. I was picked on and beaten as a child for no reason. Naruto knew the reason, but he didn't want to tell Kin that, or she might run away from him like the others. I had no friends except for the Hokage and 3 other adults, and most of the time I had to teach myself. But wait, I thought you said that your stepfather taught you. Naruto was now cursing himself for bringing that up and quickly thought of a save. He died when I was young. Nice one. My favorite move would have to be Shadow Clone Jutsu. I don't like to brag, but I can create at least 100 solid clones, and my favorite food in the world is ramen. Kin looked around, as did Naruto, not wanting to make eye contact with each other and creating an awkward silence. Kin was blushing, but Naruto was now focused on a dark shadow that had been following them. The shadow seemed not to have any attempt to harm them, so Naruto just let it go as the shadow disappeared. See that fox? I think it was a spy reporting back to sound. I should have killed him. But that chakra was different than any other I've felt. Naruto got a little worried when the Kyuubi didn't answer him. Hey fox, you hear me? Yeah, don't worry about it. I don't think he was with sound. This isn't good. I know that chakra anywhere. Just worry about the woman who is trying to get your attention. Hey Naruto. Naruto quickly turned his head over to see Kin looking at the ground, blushing. Yeah, do you have a girlfriend? I mean, back at Leaf. Stupid Kin, real stupid. You just met the guy and you're already seeing if he's available. Stop being a girly girl, but he is really nice and cute. Kin shook her head out of those thoughts and looked over to Naruto, who seemed to be a little shocked. Well, that is kind of sudden, but no, I don't. Naruto then looked down to the ground in sorrow. There was this one girl that Kin's attention, as her head suddenly shot up in fear. I used to have this huge crush on her, like she was the only woman for me. Kin was getting nervous, and she told me what she really thought of me. All I ever did was tried to get her to notice me. She was in love with our other teammate. No other man would do, but he had no interest in her. She would always yell at me, calling me names like Baka and Dope for just saying hello. Naruto then grinded his teeth and make a fist in anger. And then on the day I left, my sensei was training with our other teammate. I make a suggestion to him on how to win and she blew up, saying that I was weak and that nobody liked me and I should just leave and make everybody happy. Naruto laughed a little. Me, weak? She never once did anything to show any sort of strength. She just whimpered and hoped that her knight in shining armor would save her. And then to top it all off, she told me the reason why I don't have parents is because they abandoned me because I was a loser that no parent would want. If you think Naruto was pissed, you should have seen Kin. That bitch, how she dare say something like that to such a nice boy like Naruto-kun. If I see her, I'll kill her myself. Wait a second, I don't even know what she looks like. Hanuro Sakura. Kin looked at Naruto as he spoke those last words before he calmed down and put on another smile. Kin then gave off an evil smile. Great, now I have a name. What about you, Kin? Kin was snapped out of her evil daydream, thinking of what she could do to this Sakura girl. What? Do you have a boyfriend? Kin blushed. No, I was never really considered the looker to the boys. Naruto blushed a little. That's not what I see. Kin heard this and blushed. What do you mean by that? This caused Naruto to blush even more. Well, Naruto tried looking for a way out and suddenly found one. Hey look, Kin-chan. Kin looked in the direction that Naruto was pointing. Through the clearing of the trees she could see a massive bridge. There's the bridge to wave, come on. Well, there's chapter 2. It's a little longer than the first, but hopefully not too long. Again, all your reviews will be listened to and answered. I might even put chapter 3 up later today if you all want. Ino was packing her backpack with all the necessities such as extra clothes, sleeping bag, explosive tags, smoke bombs, kunai, and some food to last 3 days. Downstairs she could hear her parents fighting again. She sighed deeply because this time they were yelling about her. The first voice was clearly her father. "What's with your daughter wanting to bring back that monster of a child? Everybody is happy without him." The second voice was her mother. "One, she's our daughter, and seconds, it seems that she isn't happy about him leaving. She doesn't even know what he really is, a demon that will kill everybody the first chance he gets. Whenever he's around she's happy like she used to be. I've met him a couple of times and he seems like a nice boy. He's a curse to this village, and a curse to our daughter. I hope that he's dead in a ditch somewhere." That comment was the last straw as Ino pulled out a pen and paper and started to write as she was remembering what transpired earlier in the day. Flashback. Ino just saw Naruto leaving the Hokage's tower on top what seemed to be a giant red fox. As quickly as she could she ran into the tower avoiding some guards and the secretaries. She was almost at the Hokage's office when she was spotted by some Anbu. "Hey you girl, what are you doing here?" Ino without thinking threw down a smoke bomb and busted into the Hokage's office only to be grabbed by 2 Anbus and 3 others around her with their swords drawn. The Hokage looked up from his paperwork to see the young female ninja trying to break free. One of the Anbu walked forward and bowed. "Sir, we caught this girl trying to break into your office. She might be an assassin." Ino paled at the words and quickly shook her head. "I am no assassin, you idiots, let go of me." The old man simply sighed out loud. "She reminds me of another loudmouth blonde." The Hokage stood up and walked in front of Ino. "What is your name, child?" Ino just glared. Ino Yamanaka." Satyame, remembering that name, quickly told the Anbus to leave them alone and go back to their duties. They were at first skeptical but obeyed their orders and left the room, closing it behind them, leaving the 2 alone. "Please sit, Ino." Ino did as she was told and sat down in the same chair Naruto was sitting in moments ago. The Hokage walked back to his desk and sat down, smoking on his pipe and looking at Ino. "So what brings you here, Ino?" Without hesitation Ino blurted out, "Was Naruto just here?" Satyame only nodded. "Why was he here? And why was he riding a red fox?" Sadaime sighed. "I am only going to tell you this because Naruto told me before he left that you were his only friend left, besides my grandson." Ino was confused at first, but her attention went back to what he said first. "Naruto left. But why?" "Child, what I am about to tell you is forbidden and against the law that I created, but it seemed Naruto trusts you, so do not tell anyone else about this." Ino simply nodded and was on the edge of her seat in anticipation. 14 years ago the Lord of Demons, the Kyuubi no Kitasune, attacked our village. He killed hundreds of ninja in its path until the previous Hokage stepped forward. Ino sighed. "I know all about this. He was on top of the Toad boss and killed the Kyuubi. I learned about that in school." The Hokage shook his head and this confused Ino. "No, he did not kill the Kyuubi. No human can kill a demon lord. He was forced to seal the Kyuubi in a newborn baby." Ino's eyes shot wide and she slumped back into his seat. Only one word escaped her lips. "Naruto." Satyame nodded. "Yes, the Kyuubi was sealed inside Naruto. He is now the demon's prison, for when Naruto dies the Kyuubi will die." It all was starting to make sense now. How Naruto had no parents and everybody hated him for being alive. He left because everybody in this village hated him. That boy has been alone his whole life, nobody to love him but everybody to hate him. Ino was feeling sicker by the second as she remembered that she used to make fun of him. Instead of being the hero of this village, he was the curse, as the people would say. Naruto left because the people that he thought were the only ones left in the village that didn't hate him except for you did and said the worst things ever to him. That red fox that you saw him riding on was one of his summonses. Nito. He's quit the well-mannered fox even better than Naruto when it comes to compliments. Naruto summoned him when he was 8 and the 2 were always together. The old man couldn't help but chuckle at the memory. Ino looked up at the Hokage with watery eyes. "I feel terrible, Hokage. I used to be one of the people that would hurt and insult Naruto. I didn't know. Please tell me where he went." Satyame sighed and rubbed his forehead, to wave. "I am going to get him. He won't come back, child. He has already told me this. Then I will stay with him." "Did you declare him a missing nin?" "Of course not you. No, Naruto is gradually absorbing the Kyuubi's knowledge and power. He is quite strong." The Hokage stood up and started to walk back and forth thinking. "You know, I think I might send you on a training mission." To wave. Ino smiled at this. Of course this mission might take years to complete. Ino shot up out of her seat and saluted the Hokage. Thank you sir, I won't let you down. I shall pack and leave tomorrow morning. As Ino ran out the door, the old man could do nothing but smile. Those two are one and the same. Please take care of her Naruto, you need each other. End of flashback. Ino finished her note and placed it on the top of her dresser. She put on her pajamas and climbed into bed with a smile on her face. Tomorrow Naruto'll find you and you won't be alone anymore. In sound. Orochimaru was working at his desk when he felt the disturbing aura of darkness all around him. All the Snake Sannin could do was place his pen on the table and smirk. I am guessing you're here to congratulate me on such a wonderful sacrifice. On the contrary, in an explosion of dark aura appeared in front of Orochimaru's desk. When the darkness dissipated, the same dark hooded figure from before stood. I am here to tell you that our scout reported back that your hunters tried to kill her. Orochimaru sneered. The penalty for disobeying a direct order is death. No need, they are already dead. The snake ninja smiled. I have no objections, but did you have to kill them and take all the fun? The hooded man shifted towards the balcony and looked out into the city. It was not us who killed them. This surprised the ex-Leaf Nin. Kin could not have killed 3 nins, she is too weak. It was not her. Another genin ninja from Leaf killed them, and I think you know who I mean. Orochimaru smirked, knowing who it was on the dot. The Kyuubi child has left home. What a great opportunity. The hooded figure turned quickly back to Orochimaru and raised his voice. You shall do nothing to the boy. My lord has had his eyes on that boy since he was born. You shall not consider Kinsuchi a missing nin. You shall leave the 2 of them to the Anubanati, and in fact we of the 7 sins shall personally take care of the matter. I shall send number 3 to retrieve them right away. He then started to melt into a pool of dark ooze that formed on the floor. You just worry about the plan in half a year. Nothing must go wrong. One day before, back in Wave, Kin and Naruto were now walking across the bridge when they saw a sign stating that the bridge that they were now walking on was called the Naruto Bridge. Kin looked over at Naruto confused. They named a bridge after you. Naruto looked even more confused. This is new to me too. As the two entered the city, they were greeted by tons of people who would shake Naruto's hands and thank him for all the great work. Once the two make it to the center of the city, Naruto stopped and looked around the city before he turned to Kin. There are some things I have to do before we go to see my friends. I hope that's okay with you. I think there should be about 3 more hours of sunlight out. Kin just nodded her head and the two started to walk deeper into the city. Naruto stopped a man and asked a man for directions, who happily told the two where to go. Naruto and Kin found themselves in front of a tailor's building. Before they entered, Naruto turned to Kin, who was watching Naruto looking at her. She blushed but didn't want to show it. What's with you? Naruto simply smiled. Oh, nothing, Kin-chan, it's just I don't know much about sound, but I do know that they are not that well liked around this area. Kin looked up at her headband and blushed while taking it off. She looked at it closely and sneered. It's not like I am going to miss this piece of crap. Kin looked over behind Naruto to see a trash can, walked over to it. To her surprise, she was stopped by Naruto, who had his hand on her shoulder. She looked back at the boy and smirked. Trying to stop me, Naruto-kun? Going to tell me that I should just throw it all away? No. This surprised Kin. Naruto took Kin's hand, which caused her to blush again, and placed his headband in her hand. Can you throw mine away? Kin simply smiled and threw the 2 headbands and their proof of what they once called home in the garbage can and walked into the store. At the counter stood a small balding man in a business suit. Back in Konoha he would be thrown out just at the mere sight of him. But in Wave it was much different. At the sight of Naruto the man smiled. Oh, do my eyes deceive me, or is that little Naruto? Gave a real smile. Hey, who are you calling small? I am the same size as you. The man just gave out a hearty laugh. So what can I do for you? The 2 teens walked up to the counter. Kin watched as Naruto took out an extra suit of his and gave it to the old man with a note also. The man read over the note and nodded while rubbing his chin. I can do it, but it'll cost you. Naruto smiled and pulled out just a small portion of the money the Hokage gave him and handed it to the man. Both Kin's and the old man's eyes went wide. Naruto then took out an extra 300 ryo and waved it in front of the old man. Can I get it by tomorrow? The man took the nice tip and smiled. Come by 10 tomorrow, and you'll have your order. Naruto and Kin said their goodbyes and were out the door. Once they exited the store, the old man closed his shop so that he wouldn't be disturbed with his new order. Kin looked at a smiling Naruto. He seems to always be happy. That's so hard to find nowadays. Hey Naruto, what did you buy back there? Naruto just gave his trademark fox grin. It's a surprise, Kin-chan. You'll have to wait tomorrow, but I have somewhere else to go, come on. Naruto practically dragged Kin into a ninja store. Apparently the bridge brought lots of business and jobs. Once the two entered the store, Naruto looked at Kin. Okay, picks what you want. Kin looked at Naruto surprised. It's my treat, Kin-chan. If we're going to be traveling and training, you're going to have to be equipped properly. Kin smiled and the two went to find what they wanted. A half an hour later the two found everything they needed and Naruto paid for it all. 50 kunai and explosive tags, some scrolls, smoke bombs, 20 soldier pills and blood pills, a couple of shurikens, and Kin wanted to get a katana to train with. Naruto couldn't agree more. Once everything was paid for, which Kin kept asking how much it all cost. Of course Naruto didn't tell her. He just placed all the items in 2 scrolls and handed one to Kin that had her katana in it. The two were now going to visit Naruto's friends when all of a sudden Kin heard this weird noise. She looked over at Naruto, who was holding his stomach looking around. Naruto, are you okay? Yeah, Kin-chan just needs something. Naruto looked around until he spotted what he desperately needed. Naruto ran towards the ramen stand and jumped on top of the stool. Kin, remembering that Naruto said that he loved ramen, simply smiled and sat down beside him. Naruto was practically jumping on top of his seat. He may be tougher now, but his one weakness was still ramen. Hey kid, what can I get you? Naruto turned to the chef and smiled. I'll have 2 pork ramens please. Naruto turned to Kin. What would you like? Kin was about to answer when her stomach did the talking for her, blushed and looked at Naruto and the chef, who were staring at her. Same please. The chef smiled and yelled back at his assistant, 4 pork ramens. The two teens were eating their food and talking about what they were going to do tomorrow and just getting to know each other better. Kin couldn't help it, she had to admit with herself that she was starting to crush over the orange-wearing ninja. Though she really didn't approve of his choice of attire. But that was such a small thing. He was the only boy that Kin had ever been around that was not just trying to make out with her or call her weak and stupid. He was kind, understanding, and listened to everything she said with such interest. The two would laugh at each other's stories. Naruto even told her about his history of Wave, and he told her about Zabuza and Haku. He even told her about the people they were going to see. An hour later the chef and his assistant looked at the counter in horror. Kin had eaten 3 bowls of ramen, which she thought was very piggish of her, but then she looked at Naruto's pile. The assistant turned to the chef in awe. That boy ate 14 bowls of ramen, chef. That 'tis no boy, but some sort of ramen eating machine. Naruto paid for their meal and they went off to their original destination. It was getting to be around 9 o'clock when Naruto and Kin arrived at their destination. Naruto knocked on the door and waited for an answer. When the door opened there stood Inari. Once the boy knew who it was, he jumped up and hugged Naruto, causing Kin to smile. Naruto, you came to visit us. That's right, Squirt. Can't come to visit Wave without coming to check up on my favorite residents. Inari brought Naruto and Kin into the house, where they were brought into the living room where Tsunami and the drunken bridge builder were sitting down enjoying tea while one was enjoying sake. At the sight of Naruto the two jumped out of their seats, greeted them. Tsunami was the first. Oh Naruto, where are the others? And who is this lovely lady? Is she your girlfriend? The two teens blushed and Kin yelling, no way. She didn't mean it, but Naruto sure took it this way and Kin saw it, cursing under her breath, remembering that Naruto told her that no one really liked him in his village. Naruto simply shook it off and told the group of how he left the village and how he and Kin met. So just to tell you that we will be staying here at a hotel. Nonsense. The two looked at an angry Tsunami. You two shall stay here, no questions about it. Kin and Naruto's sweat dropped at the woman's rise in voice. Thank you. The drunken bridge builder simply smiled. Now we only have 1 extra room and that only has 1 bed, so I don't want you two getting any ideas. Naruto and Kin blushed madly, having Naruto screaming out in anger, Baka. Kin well is sleeping on the bed. I have my sleeping bag. Everybody went to bed. Kin was in her pajamas that she brought in a scroll she had on her for the mission, and was in the bed looking up at the ceiling. Naruto was on the other side of the room in his sleeping bag. The one thing he forgot was his pajamas. Yeah. Are you asleep? No. I just want to say sorry. This confused Naruto, but he still looked up at the ceiling just like Kin. What do you mean? A couple of hours ago I blew up and said something. She didn't hear Naruto say anything, so she simply thought that he was thinking. When that tsunami lady said that we were a couple, I blew up and said no way, but I didn't mean that. Kin froze as she recalled what she just said. She quickly looked over to Naruto to see what expression he had, but instead found the fox ninja sleeping soundly. Kin simply smiled and drifted off to sleep. Kin woke up to see that she was the only one in the room. Slowly she got out of bed and changed into her clothes and walked downstairs to the kitchen to meet everybody else. Good morning everyone, what time is it? Tsunami handed Kin a plate of food and everyone sat at the table and ate. It's about 8:30. Kin looked around and seemed a little disappointed. Everyone saw this and smirked. Where's Naruto? The bridge builder took a sip of coffee and everyone in the room had a serious look. He's at the cemetery. This caused Kin to look at the old man with interest. I am guessing he told you about Zabuza and Haku. Kin only nodded. He's gone to pay his respects. Even though the two missing nins tried to kill us, Naruto made them change their ways at the very end. If there's one thing that boy cares about, even more than his happiness and dreams, is his friends and the honor he has towards them. The bridge builder chuckled. Even though he always seems happy, that boy is really hurt on the inside. It wasn't until I saw him with you that he started to actually give off a real smile. Kin looked down at her food. That Naruto is a very interesting person. Inari was the next to speak. I bet he has the power to make others feel great about themselves. Everyone ate their meals in silence. It wasn't until Kin looked up at the clock did she notice what time it was. 9 a.m. She remembered that Naruto had to pick up his new clothes at 10. Just as that thought crossed her mind, Naruto burst through the front door and walked into the kitchen with his trademark grin on. Good morning everyone. The room turned to Naruto and smiled back. Do you want some breakfast, Naruto-kun? Naruto turned to Tsunami and shook his head. No thank you, I stopped by a ramen store on my way back from the cemetery. Naruto then looked at the clock and turned to Kin. Hey Kin, we should get going if I want to get to the tailor's on time. Kin simply nodded and thanked Tsunami for the meal and left with Naruto. In the middle of Naruto Bridge, Ino was trying to catch her breath after running for a whole 24 hours straight. The Hokage taught her how to increase her speed by 10-fold. But the move used up all of her chakra. Ino walked slowly, looking around and sneering. Stupid Naruto, not telling me he had a bridge made after him. Ino sat down and leaned up against the railing of the bridge to take a little break. I just need 5 minutes. Suddenly the female ninja's eyes shot wide and she quickly got to her feet, looking around. This chakra I am feeling is so dark and demonic that it's making me sick. Just then 4 pools of black ooze formed in front of Ino and 4 figures slowly rose from the darkness. Ino was now looking from each of these mystery ninjas who all wore the same outfit. They all wore dark purple old ninja gear that was made from your average heavy fabric. Also they had red ankle and wrist protectors, with dark brown wooden sandals. Ino couldn't see their faces because each one of them wore the same white full-face masks. The masks had no slits for the mouth or eyes but had the design of a large golden eye in the center. Each one of them were hunched over and looking at her. One of the ninjas spoke in a dark and sinister voice. She has come into contact with the target. Take her and use her for the ritual. Ino stared wide-eyed at the men approaching her, unable to fight due to chakra depletion. In the tailor's store, Naruto walked out of the changing room to see Kin looking out the window and decided to get her attention. So what do you think, Kin-chan? Kin turned around and looked Naruto up and down in awe. He was wearing the same clothing design as his old suit, but instead of orange it was now black and the blue parts were now red. On his shoulders Naruto had dark blue flames patched on, and on his back the design of a dark blue fox head was found. Naruto covered up his mouth and nose with a red scarf. Kin simply nodded and clapped her hands. Naruto, that looks amazing on you. Naruto blushed and rubbed the black of his head and smiled. You couldn't see the smile but his eyes were squinting, telling you he was. Just then a villager busted through the front door panting. Hey Naruto. Both teams turned their full attention to the man. There's trouble at the bridge. Ninjas are fighting there. Kin almost paled. Oh crap, is it sound already? Naruto saw Kin's reaction and sneered. Kin, are you ready for some field training? Kin looked at Naruto worried. Don't worry Kin, I won't let anything happen to you. Kin smiled and nodded her head. At the bridge Ino was doing her best to dodge the attacks of the 4 ninjas, but she was outnumbered and out of chakra. All she could do was fall to her knees and await her death. I am so sorry Naruto, I couldn't help you. One of the ninjas lifted up Ino by the collar of her shirt and looked at her face while tilting his head to the side. Put her down, you purple-wearing freaks. Ino's eyes shot open. I know that voice, Naruto. The ninja dropped Ino to the floor and all of them turned to face Naruto and Kin who were fight positions. Naruto looked down to the side of the ninjas to see Ino on the floor looking up at him. Ino-chan. Naruto then started to snarl at the ninjas in front of him. The Kyuubi could sense his anger and decided to speak finally. Kid, listens to me and listen carefully. You must leave right now, run away. Hell no, fuzzball, they have Ino. Naruto's eyes then shot open. He knew this chakra, he felt it before. Wait a second, I know this chakra. It's the same from yesterday when I saw that shadow. Naruto, please for once listen to me and just leave her and save you. You're not ready for this fight. Now Naruto knew something was up. The Kyuubi never called him by his name. Kyuubi, give me some of your chakra, and once I am done this fight you have a lot of explaining to do. The Kyuubi knew there was no way to change the boy's mind once it was set, so the fox simply nodded and gave Naruto a portion of his chakra, causing Naruto's eyes to turn red and have slits in them. Naruto took out a kunai in each hand and sneered at the ninjas as they stepped forward and spoke. Target acquired. Destroy the Kyuubi container. Kin's eyes went wide. Did she just hear correctly? Her question was answered when Naruto didn't deny it but simply answered. Just try it. In what seemed like seconds, Naruto killed the 4 ninjas with such ease that he didn't even break a sweat. Each of the dead ninjas simply exploded into a dark cloud, leaving no blood or guts or any sign of them ever being there. Naruto ran over to Ino. He placed down the scarf so you could see his whole face and picked her up bridal style. She looked up at him and smiled. Naruto did the same thing, showing off his sharp canines. Naruto remembered that he was still in his Kyuubi form and turned his head away from her. To his surprise, he felt a hand on his cheek. He looked back at Ino to see it was her hand and that she was smiling up at him, looking him straight in the eyes. It's okay, I know. Naruto's eyes shot wide. Ino-chan knows about me and she doesn't care. But how did she find out? Naruto's thoughts were broken as clapping was heard. Naruto, feeling a stronger chakra, narrowed his eyes. About 20 feet in front of them an explosion of dark chakra accrued. There, standing in the spot of the explosion, was a cloak-wearing man. This one was shorter and his cloak had some metal patches on the shoulders. Well, I finally get to meet the great Uzumaki up close. His voice had no sinister or evil to it, but it did sound light and cocky. Naruto just turned to Kin, who at first surprised her because of Naruto's state, but she quickly shook it off when Naruto placed Ino right beside her. His voice was cold and demanding. Kin, please give Ino a soldier pill and watch over her. Kin just nodded and quickly dug into her pockets and pulled one out. Naruto turned back to the cloaked man and sneered. Who are you? And why did you attack her? My full of questions, aren't we? Well, I can't tell you my real name, but most people call me Number 3, and we attacked her because we knew you would come in and save her, giving us the chance to test you. The man chuckled, and guess what, you passed with flying colors. Naruto gave a devilish smile. Yeah, for me. Now leave here before I cut you up into sushi. Do you really think you can pull that off, little boy? Big talk from a guy who watched his friends does all the fighting. Number 3 simply hunched over and shook his head while sighing. Oh dear, is that what you think? Naruto was starting to get pissed really quickly with this guy. One more chance, leave and I won't kill you. That little speech might work on other ninjas but not on me. I am one of the 7 sins of the Anubanati and we play a whole different ball game. Naruto was starting to get confused and showed it with his facial expressions. Anubanati. 7 sins. Naruto looked back at Number 3 and glared at him. This caused Number 3 to laugh out loud. Oh, that's the look he always gave me. I see so much of him in you, hilarious. Naruto took out a kunai and threw it at Number 3 only to have it stop inches from his face and fall down to the floor. I see you're still too young. So why don't you ask your little fuzzy friend for some answers? And don't worry, we'll see more of each other soon. Number 3 then exploded into darkness, escaping. Naruto sighed and turned back to normal. He looked back at the 2 girls who were smiling and shouted at the same time. That was amazing, Naruto-kun. Both ladies looked at each other up and down and turned back to Naruto in anger. Who is her, Naruto-kun? Later that night at Tazuna's home, Kin and Ino were talking and getting to know each other. Naruto had already told Ino about how he and Kin met, and Ino told Naruto about why she left and how she found out about everything to everyone who was all in the living room sitting down. Naruto sighed and stood up. Ino, I am not going back to Leaf. Not now at least. He opened his eyes and looked at everyone. Thank you very much for letting me stay here, Tsunami, but I'll leave tonight. Everyone got out of their seats and looked at him in horror. What, why Naruto? I don't want a demon living in your home. Tazuna smiled. You're right, we don't want a demon living here. Everyone except Naruto glared at him. Naruto just closed his eyes and sighed. We want Uzumaki Naruto staying here, and I don't see no demon. Naruto smiled and sat back down and entered his mental second home. He decided that now was better than ever to get answers from the fox. Kyuubi, where are you? This is bad, Kit. This is really bad. Naruto turned around to face the fox that was now behind him, walking towards him, looking down at the boy. Naruto let the Kyuubi out of the cage a while ago due to good behavior, but he still made sure that he couldn't take him over. What's going on, Kyuubi? I haven't seen you this scared ever. I thought I dealt with the Anubanati 14 years ago. Why are they back? Who are the Anubanati, Kyuubi? Are they that strong? Stronger. You're in danger, Kit. Kin-chan and Ino-chan are here, and if I am in trouble, they're in trouble. Fox, I have an idea. Kyuubi knew what Naruto was going to do and protested. Don't you dare. Naruto-kun. Naruto opened his eyes to meet Kins and Inos, who were sitting down on each side of him looking worried. Is something wrong? Naruto got up and walked over to the corner of the room and bit his thumb. What I am about to show nobody else has ever seen. I am summoning Kyuubi. Everybody gasped as Naruto went through the seals and slapped his hand to the ground. In a poof of smoke there stood the great Kyuubi, now the size of a human. Everyone was starting to get up and moving closer to the door. Naruto saw this and calmed everyone down. It's all right, he's okay, trust me. Everybody slowly went back to their seats and sat down. Kyuubi sat down on the floor beside Naruto and shook his head. I can't believe you actually did this. Naruto just coughed and got the fox's attention. I want you to tell them what you were going to tell me. Fine, but once my explanation is done, you Naruto will have to make a choice. Naruto, a little worried, simply nodded. This caused Kyuubi to smile. Good, now I shall tell you all about the group Anubanati. They are a group of demons and demon containers that serve a dark master. The most evil and strong demon, that had the strength and power of a god. Me and the fourth Hokage of the Leaf, along with all the other demon lords, were the only ones who knew of the group's uprising. The Anubanati leader, whose name cannot be spoken in human tongue, believed that the time of humanity was long done and wanted to rid the world of you. All of us fought alongside together and defeated their leader, destroying his body, but we weren't able to destroy his soul. The fourth was able to banish it to a dark realm. Ino placed her head on her hands, listening very carefully. If you were a good guy, then why did you attack our village? The Kyuubi smiled at the girl. Let me get to that part, child. As I was saying, once the battle was done, the fourth went back to the village and we lords stayed behind to kill any other demons that tried to escape. I was on my way back to Leaf to make a blood pact with the Hokage, saying that we would watch over each other. Besides you Naruto, those he was the only human I've ever liked. But at the time I came back, the snake Sannin Orochimaru decided to defect from the village. Till this day I still don't know how he was able to get my scroll, but he did, and used me to get his revenge. Kin sneered and clenched her fist. That snake bastard is always screwing with people's lives. It pisses me off to no end. During the fight between me and the fourth, he found out about what was going on in Orochimaru. He found the snake bastard and destroyed the scroll. He then sealed me away, and you knowing that was the only way to stop me without killing me. Truly an honorable man. That man you saw on the bridge is one of the 7 deadly sins. The Dark Master's personal and loyal assassins. They are a group of demons and containers, the strongest any mortal has ever seen. If my knowledge serves me right, there should only be 4 of them left, but why are they back? Someone must be helping them. I can't figure out how they would have known about you. Orochimaru. Everyone looked back at Kin. It must be him. There were sightings of him talking to a cloaked man in his office, and more people are going missing in Sound and the villages around Sound. It's the only thing I can think of. I wouldn't let it pass the prick that he made a deal with them, but why is the real question. But the other real question is, he looked at Naruto. If you are to fight against this major threat, you will have to grow stronger faster. That is why I have a proposition for you. I can no longer fight them due to my state, so Naruto, I want to give you 90 of my chakra. Naruto was shocked. What, that's way too much, it will kill me. True, so that only means that your body will go through changes to adapt to that much chakra. Now Naruto, if you do this, then you will become a half demon. All those cruel names and insults would then be true. Would you do it? Naruto looked around the room at all the faces who were giving him support. He stopped Ino and Kin, who smiled at him and nodded their heads. That was all Naruto needed, and he turned back to the fox. If means protecting my friends and the ones I love, I don't care about the names. Though I do have one question. Shoot. Will I grow a tail? Both teenager girls fantasized Naruto with a tail, blushing at the fact of how cute and sexy he would look. Their thoughts were destroyed by Kyuubi speaking. Maybe, but I doubt it. Now I have placed a chakra barrier around this city, making sure that the Anubanati cannot enter here. The process shall begin when you go to sleep and you won't wake up for a week. He turned to all the others and looked sternly at them. Now when Naruto wakes up, he will be a half-demon and look a little differently. But remember that he is still and always will be Naruto, not me. Everyone nodded, and the Kyuubi smiled and turned back to Naruto. And in return, I want you to break the seal and free me. Naruto chuckled nervously. Is that a bright idea, Kyuubi? I'll only have 10% of my chakra, only allowing me to be in this form and practically useless. Naruto smiled. Deal, but no more talk about you being useless. You'll always be the almighty demon lord in my books. Kyuubi smiled. Wrong, you'll be the new demon lord. Everyone was speechless as the Kyuubi disappeared in a cloud of smoke, one thought going through Naruto's mind. So far it had been 3 days and Naruto was still lying down on the bed asleep with Ino and Kin by his sides. The two would damp a cold cloth on his forehead because they could see he was in some struggle. Ino sighed and brushed Naruto's hair back, smiling back. Naruto looks so peaceful when he's asleep. Kin smiled and nodded. He's the reason I came here. Kin looked up at Ino, confused. What do you mean? I wanted to apologize for the way I treated him. It wasn't until a while ago I figured out that I had a crush on him. Kin blushed and grew angry. What? No way, I like Naruto-kun. Ino got equally angry and started to raise her voice. No way, Missy, I have known Naruto-kun for a long time now and he's mine. I beg to differ, blonde. Naruto-kun is the only man who has ever treated me like an equal and made me feel happy and safe. He's mine. Both ladies were now leaning over Naruto's body, head to head, sneering at each other. It was only till the two noticed Naruto start to shake and sweat did they go back to their seats and looked at him worried. So, Kin looked towards Ino. It wouldn't be fair to Naruto-kun if we were to fight over him like dogs. Kin just smiled and nodded. So why don't we let him decide when he wakes up? Whoever can make him fall in love with wins. Ino smiled and the two shook their hands. May the best girl win, which will be me. You wish. At Leaf. Team 7 walked into the Hokage's tower to pick up a mission. It would have to be AD because they were short a member. Surprisingly, the one who took it the worst was Sakura, who couldn't sleep, feeling that it was all her fault that Naruto ran away. In actuality, Sakura never hated Naruto, or thought of him as a dope or dead last. She just said those things because after Naruto left, Sakura tried to ask Sasuke out again only to be denied again and called a stupid fangirl. She then blew up at the closest person, which happened to be Naruto, calling the names everyone else had called him. When Naruto called her that name before he left on that red fox, she deserved it. After doing so many missions without him, she noticed that the only reason that she enjoyed doing missions were because Naruto was around. Sasuke wouldn't even look at her or talk to her, but Naruto would always make her feel special. Sure, he could be annoying, but he was always there to make her laugh and feel happy. But since he left, she was now miserable and lazy. Kakashi saw this and would always tell her that it wasn't her fault and that Naruto was bound to do this sooner than later. The three came to the front desk where a very depressed Iruka sat looking through his paperwork. Kakashi coughed and tried to get his attention, which worked. Team 7 reporting for a mission. Iruka looked up and smiled. Well, since Naruto hasn't come back yet, I'll have to give you another D-rank mission. Kakashi nodded. Your mission is to go to Wave and pick up their payment for the A-rank mission you did a while back. This mission should take you 5 days to complete. Do you accept? Yes, and with that, Team 7 left to pack for the trip. Just as the team left, the Hokage came back from the bathroom. What did I miss? I gave Team 7 a mission to Wave. Unfazed by what Iruka said, the old man simply smiled. That's nice. The next morning, after Team 7 had already left, the Hokage woke up yawning, walking into his bathroom and started to brush his teeth when suddenly he realized something. His eyes went wide and he spat out his toothpaste. Sweet merciful crap, Naruto is in Wave. Oh well, I am too old to care anymore, he can handle himself. 2 days later in Wave. Naruto slowly opened his eyes and tried to sit up on the bed only to find himself having a massive head rush. Damn, that hurts. Well, I guess I should look at the damage. Naruto got up and walked across the room towards the mirror to check himself over. His eyes were now a permanent blood red with black slits, his hair grew longer and his whisker marks were a little thicker, and his ears were slightly pointed. A smirk crossed the boy's face as he noticed no more baby fat and that his canines were now longer and sharper. He looked down at his hands to find that his nails were longer and sharper like claws. Naruto quickly looked at his back and sighed, thank God no tail. There you go kid, now a deal is a deal. Yeah. Naruto performed the seals and broke the seal on his body, releasing the demon fox for good. Just like Kyuubi said, he was the same size as he was in the living room a week ago, and Naruto could sense very little demonic chakra coming from the fox. So what are you going to do now? The fox looked at himself, then at the half-demon Naruto. Well, I thought about traveling and going to all the places I couldn't when I was trapped. Oh. Naruto sounded a little sad, and the fox could tell. You were like a second father to me, Kyuubi, watching over me since I had nobody else. I just like to say thanks, Dad. The fox looked out the window towards the rising sun, but then again, I can't let my kid run around with two beautiful women by himself. I guess I'll have to follow you to make sure you do nothing wrong. Naruto smiled and hugged the Kyuubi. Thanks a lot, it won't be the same without you. Naruto held his ears in pain from the sudden scream from the doorway. The two turned to see Kin and Ino looking at Naruto in disbelief. Naruto, is that you? Naruto smiled warmly. The one and only. One thought was going through both girls' minds. My Kami, he's hot. Naruto took a step forward but fell on his face. Both women came to his aid and placed him back on the bed. The Kyuubi looked at the girls and explained the situation. His body is still getting used to the changes, he should be fine by tomorrow. The girls nodded and looked back at Naruto, who was digging through his backpack. I hate to do this, I promised to train with you Kin and Ino, but it seems I won't be able to till tomorrow. The girls smiled at him. It's okay Naruto, me and Ino have been training each other and having scrimmages. Naruto shook his head. That's no excuse, so I'll give you two these. Naruto took out two scrolls and handed them each one. These scrolls have some pretty useful jutsus in them. Most of them are Chunin and Junin level. Study them and practice them and I'll check up on you tomorrow. The girls took the scrolls and looked inside them, giggling with anticipation to try them. Oh, and one more thing. Yeah, Naruto-kun. Can you guys watch over my old man here? I know he wants to go hunting for rabbits. That's all he ever talked about. I just don't want him to get into trouble. Both girls nodded and looked at the Kyuubi, who seemed to be pissed at the idea. It still seemed weird to the girls that Naruto called him old man, but they guessed it was kind of appropriate because the Kyuubi was the only one that really watched over. Two girls smiled and nodded as Naruto went back to bed. Outside, both Ino and Kin were in the woods trying out the new jutsus, while Kyuubi and Inari were deeper in the woods trying to catch rabbits Tsunami to make stew. Kin stopped her training and sighed. Hey Ino, how strong do you think Naruto is now? I don't know really, but he looks extremely strong. But then again, we need to get strong also if what Kyuubi said about these Anubinati is true. Kin went back to her training. I don't care how strong they are, I am staying right beside Naruto till the end. He helped me when nobody else would. Ino smiled. Yeah, he has that affect. Kin smiled devilishly. Yeah, and he's all mine. Ino just looked from the corner of her eye. You wish he won't be able to resist me. Ino then started to look around. Hey Kin, I am going to go look for Inari and Kyuubi, I haven't seen them in a while. No problem, I'll still be here. Kin was still training until she heard talking off in the distance approaching her. Suddenly in front of her stood three-leaf nins, a boy with black hair and wearing a dark blue getup, a girl that Kin suddenly really hated, pink hair and clothes. What a girly. The last one looked strong, a tall man with silver and a bandana covering his right eye. The main problem was that they were from Leaf, and on thought went through Kin's mind. That they were here for Naruto and she wasn't going to let that happen. The three-leaf ninjas stopped in front of Kin. She placed her hands in her pockets and sneered at them. Kakashi smiled at Kin and waved to her. Yo, there miss, could you? Kin sneered at all three of them and pulled out her bell and dangled it in front of her face. Don't yo me, God I hate you leaf ninja bastards so much. Kakashi simply smiled. Well, from what I can tell from your attitude and battle stance, I have a question for you. Why's a sound nin in wave? Sasuke and Sakura got into a fight stance. Kin smiled, not letting her guard down. X sound nin, but that has nothing to do about this. I am not letting you get past me, for I have someone to protect. Sakura, not liking this girl, stepped forward. Kakashi-sensei, let me take her down. Now Sakura, don't be rash. Kin's eyes went wide. Hanuro Sakura. Sakura was startled that this girl knew her name and slowly nodded her head. This caused Kin to chuckle. I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. You're the reason why he left. You made fun of him and treated him like shit, all of you. I can't see what Naruto ever saw in you. All of Team 7's eyes went wide. I am going to enjoy wiping the floor with that huge forehead of yours. And I am not letting you go near him so you can just kill him. I'll protect him with my life. Kin threw her needle bell in front of Team 7 and started to twitch it, causing the bell to ring. Immediately Team 7 started to hold their ears in pain and fell to the floor. Sasuke got to his feet and yelled, "Kia!" But nothing happened. This startled Kakashi. This is no genjutsu, it's real. Kin laughed. You got that right, buddy. This may not be a jutsu, but it sure hurts like hell. Sasuke saw his chance and cut the string with a kunai and ran towards Kin with a killer intent. Kin quickly pulled out her katana and got ready for the fight. As Sasuke was coming closer, his path was suddenly blocked by 4 shurikens impaling themselves in the ground. Ino jumped from the trees and landed beside Kin, smiling. I won't let you have all the fun. Fine, but Pinky is mine. I have no problem with taking on Mr. Moody. Both girls jumped into battle only to be stopped by a voice. Stop this right now. Both girls stopped in their tracks, knowing whose voice it was. Behind the girls stood the Kyuubi with 4 dead rabbits in front of him. What is going on here? Kakashi's eyes grew wide at the sight of the fox demon and sprung to attack him. Both Ino and Kin saw this and stood in front of Kyuubi to protect him. Kakashi stopped and glared at the girls. Ino, Yamanaka, move this instant. Do you know who that is behind you? Ino only glared harder at the copy nin. Yes, I do. Kyuubi. Kyuubi, look. Everyone's attention was turned to beside the Kyuubi where Inari just ran out of the trees beaming with 5 rabbits. Look, Kyuubi, I was able to get more than you. Kyuubi sighed but gave a grin to the boy. That's only because I am still rusty. Inari looked at Team 7 and shivered, remembering what Naruto said about them. Kyuubi saw this and calmed the boy down. Child, leave this matter to me. Bring these rabbits back to your mother, and tell her that we will be back shortly and that I can't wait to try her rabbit stew. Inari nodded and grabbed the rabbits and ran back home. Kakashi, waiting till Inari was gone, decided to break the silence. Okay, what the hell is going on? On the way back, Kyuubi explained everything to them, leaving out the bit of the Anubanati. The whole trip back, both Ino and Kin glared at Sakura, who saw it and started to get nervous. What are you two looking at? Both girls, not in the mood for Sakura's bitching, barked back at the young ninja. How the hell could you say those things to Naruto? And why the hell would I answer a sound traitor? Sakura smiled after saying that, feeling a little better. Kin, not finding this one bit funny, sneered at her. What did you just say? Ino decided to step in and help her new friend. Don't talk to Kin like that, Sakura. I considered you a friend, and I remember when I first met you, you told me that you used to be picked on because of your large forehead. Sakura looked over to Kin expecting her to be laughing, but she just continued to walk, glaring at her. You hated it and cried, so I helped you out meeting new people, and then you turn around and do the same thing to somebody else. Naruto never did anything to hurt you mentally or physically. All he ever wanted you to do was say hello to him, and what do you do in return? Spit down his throat and call him names, and the worst thing about it was that he had nobody to turn to for help or friendship. She glared at Kakashi, who listening to the whole conversation. You are supposed to be his sensei, and not once did you ever bother to teach him. You wasted your time and energy with only Sasuke and sent Naruto to run around the village. Do you know what he did when you sent him off? Kakashi simply shook his head. He went deep into the forest and trained himself. Sometimes I would leave my own team to join him, and every second I could hear the pain and sadness with every word he said and every punch or kick he made, knowing that he was all by himself with nobody to care for him and teach him. Ino wasn't done yet. She then turned her attention to Sasuke, who seemed like he didn't care. And you were his teammate, and every single time he improved himself or tried to, you would call him Adobe or dead last. You were just afraid that the supposed dead last wouldn't believe me. He already has surpassed you. None of you ever gave him any support or happiness. Only hate and judgment, And yet he never once showed you any revenge. He simply put on a smile and tried his hardest the next day to try and make you just look at him without hate or pity but with pride and joy. I swear if it wasn't for me, Anko, Hinata, Iruka-sensei, and the Hokage, Naruto would probably had committed suicide, all because of that damn village and their hate. After saying all of that, Ino had to take a couple of breaths of air. The three members of Team 7 just stood there in shock, letting all this information sink in and knowing that it was all completely true. Kyuubi, Ino and Kin continued to walk back to the house, leaving them to their thoughts. As Kin walked by she stopped and spat on the ground in front of them and sneered. You assholes are up there with that snake bastard Orochimaru. Once the three entered the house they were greeted by Tsunami with a smile. Where have you been? I was getting worried when Inari told me what happened. Kyuubi just sunk his head while the two girls scratched the back of their heads and looked around. Suddenly the door opened again and Team 7 walked into the dining room. Kakashi smiled and waved. Hello, is Naruto around? Tsunami started to get nervous and looked around the house while sweating. I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't seen Naruto since the last time you were all here. Just then everyone turned to the doorway of the kitchen to see Tazuna drunk with a bottle of sake in his hand, smiling. Yeah, we don't know any Naruto, the old drunk then burped. Kyuubi sighed. It's alright, we told them and they said that they weren't here for him, and Tazuna, you don't need to act drunk. Who's acting? With that said, Tazuna burped again and fell down to the floor, passed out. He's not here. Everyone turned to Tsunami. Once you three left, Naruto came downstairs and just started to walk around. Then he took out a pen and just started writing in a book. He made 3 books in 1 hour and was bored, so I asked him if he could get me the groceries, but that was 3 hours ago. Kyuubi started to growl, freaking everybody out. I told him to rest, he's still too weak after the procedure. Ino just laughed and patted Kyuubi on the back. This is Naruto you're talking about. Kyuubi simply sighed. You're right, that boy would get distracted by a butterfly, and walk off a cliff, and then still get up like nothing happened. All attention was suddenly brought to the front door as they all heard it open. Tsunami, I am back. 6 will be up tomorrow, I promise. I am working on 7 as we speak. Naruto walked into the living room and could only see everybody except for Team 7 who were in the kitchen still. Naruto had his scarf covering his mouth, and held onto 4 bags of food. Kyuubi stepped up in front of Naruto and growled. Tsunami told she sent you for groceries 3 hours ago. What happened? And why aren't you resting, Kit? Naruto placed the bags on the ground and smiled. Hey, no problem Pops, I couldn't rest so I went out to do some shopping for Tsunami. And the reason I am late is because I got the food and then on my way back I stopped by the ramen stand and had a couple of bowls. Now after that one got thirsty so I went back to the store and picked up some milk. I drank all the milk and came back here. But I stopped for ramen again. Kyuubi shook his head. Alright, I know where this is going. Naruto's smile changed when he saw the looks of concern on Kin's and Ino's faces. What's wrong, Kin-chan? Ino-chan. Kin took a step forward. We tried to stop them, Naruto, we really did. Yo. Naruto turned to the kitchen to see Kakashi and his 2 former teammates walk out. Naruto then squinted his eyes in anger. I know, Kin, I've known they've been here since the moment they set foot on the bridge. That's also another reason why I took my time. Kakashi took a step forward, looking over Naruto's new look. Naruto, what's happened to you? Naruto took off his scarf and grinned, showing off his canines. What's wrong, Kakashi? I thought you of all people would be happy now that you can officially call me a demon, seeing as I am one now. Sasuke looked at Ino and Kin who were looking at Naruto and smiling warmly. That look, that's the same look I give Sasuke, those two love him. Well, I lost my chance but I can still try to be his friend. Sakura stepped forward. Naruto, you are no demon, you're still human. Naruto crossed his arms and looked out the window to the dark star-filled sky. Well, you're wrong there, Sakura. I am a demon, but just because I am a demon doesn't mean it's a bad thing. I am still the same Naruto you all hated, but now I am stronger and faster so that I can protect the ones who matter most to me. Sakura looked over to see Kin and Ino blushing. And there are plenty of other good demons out there. Look at my dad for instance. Kakashi went wide-eyed at those words. Naruto doesn't know about his father. Nobody ever told him. Kakashi was about to say something when Kyuubi stopped him by growling and shaking his head. Kakashi understood and nodded his head. Kakashi turned to Ino and smiled. Your parents are worried about you, Miss Yamanaka, and your teammates. Ino just huffed and rolled her eyes. My parents are just pissed that I left to come here with Naruto. and Tenryo says that Asuma just noticed that I was gone. Kakashi simply chuckled and rubbed the back of his head. Ino knew what that meant and it pissed her off even more. Damn that lazy ass, all he ever cared about was playing mind games with Shikamaru. Is it true that all Leaf senseis are incompetent? Out of all the talking, Naruto slipped out the door and sat down looking up at all the stars. They're beautiful. Naruto smiled. Yeah. Sakura sat down beside Naruto and hugged her legs. Naruto, I am so sorry about everything I've said or done to you. I am a terrible person and I really didn't mean to say all of those things to you, I really didn't. I only hope that it's not too late to say sorry. Naruto looked at Sakura from the corner of his eye to see her crying. It never is. Sakura's head shot up and she wiped the tears away. I am so sorry, please forgive me. Naruto chuckled. In all the time you've known me I haven't held a grudge against anyone. He turned to Sakura and smiled. Why would I start now? Sakura with a loss of words just hugged Naruto, who in return hugged back. You better get inside, it's getting cold out. Aren't you coming? Give me a couple of seconds. Sakura nodded and went inside. Once Naruto knew she was gone, he looked back up into the stars. You can come out now. From behind Naruto, Kakashi walked up behind Naruto and smiled. I really do like the new look. Black looks good on you. Spare me of your pathetic attempt to soften me up. I can forgive Sakura because she didn't know, but you knew all the time. Tell me, is that the reason why you ignored me so, Kakashi? Kakashi seemed surprised by the response and tried to hold his ground. That's not true. Naruto cut him off by squinting his eyes and raising his voice. Is it? You were like everybody else. Hate the demon but let him on a ninja team just so that we can watch him struggle and laugh behind his back. Kakashi was about to say something when Naruto rose his hand. I am not done. You spent all your time training the oh so precious Sasuke. You even trained Sakura more than me, but all you did for me was tell me to run laps around the village. I wonder if you knew that every time I was told to run laps I was stoned by the villagers. Kakashi, feeling terrible, tried to set things right. Naruto, please listen to me, I never meant to treat you the way you were. I would like to believe that, but sadly I don't. Naruto closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Why are you guys even here? We came to collect the payment for the A-rank mission. Naruto reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope that had the Hokage's name written on it. Here, give this to the Hokage. When he reads it and still feels that they need to pay, I will personally pay for it. Kakashi took the envelope and placed it in his pocket. I am guessing the village had a huge party celebrating the demon boy's disappearance. Well, yes and no. There was a party, that was until Iruka and Anko came in. Naruto turned to Kakashi, curious. Oh. How so? Kakashi simply smiled and rubbed the back of his head. Let's just say that Anko has been banned from purchasing explosive tags from any store in the village. That woman can be right out insane sometimes. Naruto smiled. Tell me about it, but that be one of the reasons why I like her. Naruto stretched out his arms. Well, better go get some sleep. With that, Naruto started to walk deeper into the forest. I thought you said you were tired. Naruto turned around to face the Junin. I am, and nothing beats a good tree to sleep in. Good night. In your average dark evil lair. In a dark room with a large table in the middle was the only sight that was until 7 individual lights lit up on each spot of the large table. But only 5 figures sat. 2 of the seats were empty. In one of the seats the same man that talked to Orochimaru sat leaning on the table. With his hands folded, the seat beside him was occupied by number 3, who was sitting very lazily with one of his legs over the arm of the chair. Beside him was an empty seat. The next was another figure. This one was a woman by the form of her figure. She wore a cloak that was completely made of raven feathers. Across from her a huge muscular figure sat. His cloak was made by different pieces of leather that seemed to be stitched together. His arms laid calmly on the arm rests. The leader of the group, which was the man sitting beside number 3, spoke first. So tell us again why you let the target go again, without even raising a finger again, number 3. Number 3 chuckled, which showed, because his cloak started to shake. He is still too young. I can't fight a kid that weak. I want him to get stronger so then I could have a real party. The large figure slammed his fist on the table, causing it to shake. You had your chance to fight Whelp in the Great War to serve our master, but you were nowhere in sight. The giant's voice was deep and strong. Number 3 sat properly and bent over. Oh yes, number 6, the Great War. Number 3 started to tap his head, showing that he was thinking. Now refresh my memory, who won that battle again? Number 6's right eye started to glow green and his hand started to shake in anger. You dare mock our Lord Number 3. Stop this right now. All heads turned to the female raven wearer whose voice was husky and seductive like Anko's but stronger. If possible, Number 3 is right, we were caught by surprise while performing the ritual. That's why Number 7, 4, and 2 are no longer with us, but Number 3 has a point. I too wish to taste his organs and kidneys when they are strong not weak. Number 3 laughed nervously. Well Number 5, you sick little succubus, I didn't mean it like that but nice effort. Number 3 turned to Number 1 who was beside him. And this Orochimaru guy, how's your little plan going? Number 1 not moving out of his position simply answered. So far it's proving successful. He is going along with the plan even though he knows nothing of it. Number 6 laughed. These humans are so pitiful. You dangle a bone in front of their faces and they sit like the good dogs they are and obey every word you tell them. I take that as an insult. Everyone tuned their heads over to see that last man at the table who stayed quit the whole conversation. His voice was metallic and he sounded sick and dying. He bent forward into the light revealing him in front of the others. The man wore a clean white hooded cloak that had a red lining around the edges and center. He wore gold gauntlets that he placed on the table with a large thud. His face was covered with a silver metal face mask that had the design of a crying man. His eyes were the only thing visible which were brown. The skin around the eyes was burnt and deformed suggesting that his whole face was the same. Number 6 turned to him in disgust. Speak when spoken to human filth. You should be honored to be at this table and in the company of such powerful beings. The masked man coughed. Remind me who fixed that eye of yours. I believe it was this pitiful dog you said. 6 was about to stand when Number 1 intervened. How's Phase 2 coming along, Doctor? The said drug is being dispersed by my men to the villages you ordered. Good, good, and the vessels for the ritual itself. I have been prepping them as ordered. Is there something you're leaving out, good doctor? The said doctor chuckled. I am keeping some of them for my personal playtime. I so love to take things apart and put them back together to make something better. Like clay but more wet. The said doctor stood up and bowed his head. Now if you'll excuse me, I have a patient who is waiting for me. The doctor left the light signaling his departure from the group. The next to stand up was Number 5. Number 1 turned to the woman. And where are you going? I've changed my mind, I am too hungry. About what? The psycho woman chuckled. It's now official that Fox season is open and I have a hankering for some white meat. Team 7 and the whole bridge builders family woke up to the sounds of fighting and an explosion from outside. Team 7 ran outside battle ready. The sky was still dark because it was 4 in the morning. Just as they exited the house, Ino fell in front of the group with a thud. She quickly got up with dirt covering her clothing and face. Sakura tried to help her but she pushed her away with fire in her eyes. That punk thinks he can get me down so easily. They watched as Ino ran back into a fight that was going on between her, Kin, and Naruto. Kin was trying to hit Naruto with Taijutsu. Naruto dodged every punch and kick as if it was nothing at all. Kin tried punching Naruto in the face only to have him bend back and dodge it. He then bent down and pushed back Kin hard in the stomach, causing her to fall into Ino, who was too involved with hitting Naruto. The two fell back down to the floor and got up slowly. They watched as Naruto simply smiled. You two are doing great. Kin sneered. Great's not good enough to stay alive on the field. Naruto simply nodded his head. The two girls looked at each other and nodded their heads. They ran at Naruto, weaving in and out of each other. Ino threw a smoke bomb in front of Naruto, blocking his vision. This was Kin's cue to jump over Naruto and kicked him in the back of the head before landing. The blow hit Naruto and he stumbled forward out of the smoke only to be hit by a roundhouse kick to the stomach. The attack wasn't complete as Kin came running up behind Naruto and grabbing the back of his head in a headlock. Using all of her strength, she was able to flip Naruto backwards in the air. Before he hit the floor, both girls kicked him in the back, causing him to crash into a tree face first. And to finish off the attack, the girls threw kuniyas, impaling them in the back of Naruto's head and all other body parts. The body fell to the floor dead. The girls punched each other's fists in victory with smiles on their face. Team 7 was shocked and ran up to the corpse of Naruto, only to have it turn into a skeleton and then dust. Whistling was heard from behind the panting girls as they all looked to see Naruto clapping. He stopped in front of Ino and Kin, smiling. That was amazing, you two are naturals. That team attack was killer. I am glad we're on the same side. The girls blushed and Ino stepped forward, whipping the sweat off of her forehead. Thanks, but it was still a weak clone and it almost beat us. You were too modest, Ino. That might have been a weaker version of my new jutsu, but it was still powerful, and you girls kicked the crap out of it. Naruto turned to see Kakashi and the rest walking up to him. That was no regular clone. Usually once hit they disappear. What was that? Naruto gave his fox grin. Well, Kakashi, it's a new jutsu I created. I call it Fearless Clone Jutsu. It requires a lot of chakra and some blood from the person who performs the move. It's basically a clone that won't disappear until you kill it. Kakashi nodded his head. Impressive, so I guess we'll be leaving back to Leaf now. Don't worry, we won't tell anyone we found you. Kakashi turned to Ino and smiled. And before I forget, Miss Yamanaka, the Chunin exams will be starting in 5.5 months. It would be a shame if you missed it. Ino was about to respond when Naruto interrupted. Don't worry, she'll be there. One thought went through his head. Does he want me gone that bad? Naruto continued his sentence. Of course, after her training, that is. Thou with her skills, I doubt it will be a challenge. She'll have no competition. Ino smiled at Naruto's direction. I knew he would say something that sweet. Kin saw this and sneered. Even though the two girls were now friends, when it came to Naruto, though it was a fierce battle, I am not giving up that easily. She's in for a real fight. What about you, Naruto? If you come back, you two can enter the exam. I am sure you would be a sure win. Naruto turned to Sakura and placed his hand up and down, showing off his new body, looking like this. If the council wanted me dead for being the container of the Kyuubi, they would send the whole village to kill me if they saw that I was a real demon. Everyone looked sad, knowing he had a point. If Naruto ever returned to the village, he would be killed on sight. Plus, I don't care about the title of Chunin. Everybody except Kin looked shocked with hearing this, knowing all Naruto ever talked about was getting up the ranks. The only title and rank I want is Hokage. Once I am able to show the council that I am the same old Naruto, not some evil beast, I'll be in the Hokage's seat. Naruto smiled along with everybody else. So what are you going to do now? Naruto thought about it for a second and smiled. Besides Wave, I haven't been anywhere else, and the best way to train is to travel and see the world. That's if it's okay with everybody else. Kin and Ino nodded. Kyuubi was out hunting for some breakfast, but Naruto already knew his answer. Everybody went their separate ways with one thought on Sasuke's mind. If I am going to beat Naruto, I got to get stronger no matter what. The group was now walking down a dirt trail through the forest to their new destination. Leading the group was Kyuubi. Right behind him were Naruto with Kin and Ino on each side of him. They all had backpacks and all the supplies they needed, such as sleeping bags, food, and spare weapons. Both Ino and Kin looked at each other and smirked before turning their attention back to Naruto, who seemed bored. So where are we going again, Naruto? Naruto broke out of his daze and turned to face Ino, smiling. Well, Ino-chan, we're on our way to the hidden village of the mist. We should learn some water jutsus from there. Ino smiled and wrapped her arm around Naruto's, who was now blushing. Kin saw this and decided to act quickly. And after that, Naruto-kun. Emphasizing on the kun, she also wrapped her arm around Naruto's and rested her head on his shoulder, smiling up at him. Ino, not going to get outdone, did the same. Naruto just blushed madly and sunk his head deeper into his scarf. The Kyuubi was watching the whole event and was smiling warmly at the sight. Naruto answered Kin's question after gulping a couple of times. Well, Kin-chan, I hoped we could then go to the village hidden in the sand. Naruto then got serious. I heard there's another in that village. Both Kin and Ino looked at each other confused. Another what? Container. Like Naruto, but this child has the demon Lord Raccoon in him. Not as strong as me, but he does have a shorter temper. Naruto chuckled. That's hard to believe. Another demon that has a shorter temper than you, Pops. Kyuubi stopped and turned around and growled at Naruto. Don't start or I'll finish. And how are you going to get the secret scrolls from Mist again? Naruto smiled even wider. I've got the perfect plan. Scene skipped to Naruto in front of the Kazakage. Naruto holds out his hand and smiles. Can I have the scroll of secret techniques, please? The Kazakage smiles brightly and hands Naruto the scroll. Of course, oh great and powerful Naruto, your grace alone makes me feel incompetent in front of such a superior being. End of plan. Both Kin, Ino, and Kyuubi had their mouths open and sweat drops over their heads. Naruto simply had his trademark grin on. Both girls released their holds on Naruto's arms and got pretty annoyed. Naruto, please don't tell me that's your plan. Of course not. That's plan A, and if that doesn't work, then Pops will think of something. Kyuubi sighed and then got an idea. Naruto, close your eyes and concentrate. Everybody looked worried at the fox, who simply nodded his head towards Naruto. Naruto did as Kyuubi said. Now what? Now I want you to feel the energy around you. How do I do that? Just concentrate, it will come naturally. Naruto closed his eyes tightly and soon a smile crossed his lips. Now smell the air and tell me what you smell. Naruto took couple of long sniffs. I smell you, Ino, and Kin. He took another long sniff and shot his eyes open wide. I smell people, a lot of people. Probably a village. The Kyuubi smiled and nodded his head. It's about 5 kilometers ahead of us. But Kyuubi, how are we going to enter that village with the two of us looking like this? Kyuubi smiled. Easily. In a poof of smoke the Kyuubi transformed himself into an adult human version of himself. He had red eyes like Naruto's, and his hair was long and silver and tied up by a red cloth at the end to make it a ponytail. His face was calm and dignified with no sign of flaw. Both Ino and Kin would be blushing over his handsome face that would be if they never met Naruto. He wore a black chunin vest with green khaki pants and green long-sleeve shirt with black elbow and knee pads. The group noticed that Kyuubi had a leaf bandana strapped to his shoulder. See, instant human. Oh, and I think you and Kin would want to put this on. Kyuubi handed Naruto back his headpiece, which he slowly put back on. Thanks, Kyuubi. Iruka would have never forgiven me if he found out I threw it away. Kin took her leaf headpiece and tied it around her head. This feels weird, putting on a leaf headpiece. Naruto smiled at Kin and winked. Don't worry, Kin-chan, when I become Hokage my first act will be to make you an official leaf nin. Kin blushed. Can't wait, Hokage. Ino smiled warmly. But Kyuubi, how did you get 2 leaf headpieces? Kyuubi scratched his human chin and smirked, showing off his fangs. Let's just say that Sasuke and that huge forehead girl are going to get pretty pissed when they find out that their headpieces are actual old dirty belts that I put a henge on. Which should be wary off right about now. As the Kyuubi said this, everybody listened carefully as they could hear the faint scream of Sakura's voice in the wind. The fox smiled, proud with his work along with Ino and Kin. Music to my ears, and for you Naruto, your hair covers up most of your ears anyways. Leave your scarf on, wear some gloves, or keep your hands in your pocket. And we can tell them that our eyes are part of our bloodline limit. Naruto nodded his head, satisfied with the answer he got. As the group started to enter the village they noticed that it was pretty much the same as Wave when they first got there. The houses were broken down, and the people looked as if they got theirs ass kicked every day. Naruto and Ino looked over to Kin, who seemed to be looking around nervously. What's wrong, Kin? Kin looked worried towards Ino. I think I know this place. Their conversation was cut short because of a scream coming from some villagers. There the demon returns. What more can they take from us? Naruto and Kyuubi started to get worried that their cover was already blown and watched as hundreds of villagers with weapons started to approach them. Kyuubi stepped forward and waved his hands off, trying to calm them down. I and my son here are not demons. This is only our bloodline limit, and it's permanent. One of the villagers, a teenage boy with red hair and some missing teeth, stepped forward, glaring towards Kin. Not you. Her. She came here with her sound team and attacked us, stole our food and money, and worse of all, killed my father. She may be a leaf now, but he'll never forget that face. Naruto and Ino stepped in front of Kin and got into a fight position. You lie, Kin would never do that. The boy stepped forward again with the mob following him. I would never lie, I know that face anywhere, and now that she's back she will be sent to court and determined your punishment for her crimes towards us. Naruto started to do some hand seals and summoned Nito to his side. Try it and see how many of you I can kill in 5 seconds. Nito immediately got into a stance and started to growl. All the villagers except for the teenage boy stepped back in fear. Stop. Everyone turned back to see Kin walking forward with her head towards the ground. It's true, I did. She then shot her head up, but I've never killed a person in my life. Let the courts decide that. Kin sighed and walked forward, showing her empty hands. I'll go freely. Naruto started to shake his head and took out 2 shurikens. No, I won't let them take you away. Kyuubi tackled Naruto to the ground, who was seconds away from jumping and using force. No, kid, we can't do anything. If we retaliate it could turn into a war. What do you mean? Think about it, we're wearing leaf symbols. If this village tells the Kazakage that 4 leaf ninjas attacked them, it would start in an all-out war. Naruto relaxed and watched as the villagers tied Kin's hand together and dragged her away. Later that night in the village prison, Kin sat down in the small cell on the floor and sighed, so where are the others? The question was directed towards Naruto, who was leaning up against the cell doors glaring at the door to the room, just in case someone had the bright idea of taking the law into their own hands. Not taking his eyes off the door, Naruto answered her question. Ino and Kyuubi are trying to talk some sense into the village head. Nito's outside this door protecting it and I am here with you. I've done some pretty bad things when I was with Sound. We all do some bad things. It doesn't mean you're bad, just means that the people who ordered you to do it were bad. Kin smiled and took Naruto's hand, squeezing it gently. Naruto turned around and faced Kin on the other side of the cell and smiled warmly towards her. Thanks, Naruto. Naruto pulled down his scarf. For you, Kin, any time. The two stopped smiling and looked into each other's eyes, getting lost in them. If on pure instinct the two closed their eyes and moved in slowly. The two's lips were inches apart when the door suddenly smashed open, causing the two to quickly move away from each other, blushing madly. Kyuubi, Nito, and Ino walked into the room with Kyuubi smiling. Did we interrupt something? Naruto looked at Ino, who seemed to be hurt. Naruto sighed and grew angry towards the Fox Lord. What do you want? Well, we talked to the village head and the good news is that Kin will not be executed for her crime. Naruto and Kin sighed in relief. But she can still be imprisoned for the rest of her natural life if we can't make a case. He then turned to Kin and asked sternly, now tell us what happened precisely. Kin nodded her head. It was a D-rank mission. Me and my team were supposed to come to this village and pillage it, taking all the valuables and some people for whatever Orochimaru had in plan for them. I refused to beat the villagers and take their belongings. It was declared that I failed the mission and was punished for it later. Kin rubbed her shoulders, remembering the pain. The villagers upraised and tried to stop us. We fought them back and they stopped due to fear. But that wasn't enough. My sensei ordered us to make an example and kill one of the villagers to tell the others we meant business. The Kyuubi nodded his head. That boy's father. Kin slowly nodded, not making eye contact with the group. But why didn't the Kazakage stop this? Surely he knew. That's because he doesn't care about us. Everyone turned to see the same boy from the street enter the room with his arms crossed. And my name is Kamaza Harote. Lately, the past couple of months, the Kazakage have gone crazy, not caring about the surrounding villages, staying in his office all the time. Some people even say that he talks to shadows on the wall. Naruto and Kyuubi's eyes went wide, knowing where this was going. They were about to say something when Kin made the first move. I know I've done bad things while with Sound, but I never killed anybody. I know you didn't, but you had the power to save him and didn't, so technically you did kill him. I am so sorry. Kazama turned around, not facing Kin. Save your sorry for God when you meet him. With that he left the room. As for the voting, I am adding another traveler to the group of ninjas, a certain red-headed, loud-mouthed Sound 4 members, to Yuya, but I am not sure if she should be a regular in the group or join the Uzumaki fan club along with Ino and Kin. Bright and early in the morning, a large group of Sound ninjas walked on the dirt road towards Mist. The group of 10 Chunins was led by the infamous Sound 4. Orochimaru's personal and deadly bodyguards. The morning air was filled with the sweet sound of music from a flute that seemed to attract birds to the music and chirp along. To Yuya, stop playing that crappy flute of yours. Do you want everybody to know that we're here? To Yuya stopped and looked at the trees around them to see all the birds flying off because of the loud shout. The red-headed genjutsu specialist placed her flute inside of her robe, then turned to the one who shouted at her. Great fucking works, Kidomaru, you freaking six-armed ass. You scared all the birds away. The spider ninja turned around to see Yuya, pissed out of her mind. Screw the birds and screw you. Kami, don't you know anything about being a ninja? Teiei was shocked and about to respond when she was cut off by another voice. He's right, Yuya. The large orange-haired Jirobu walked past Yuya with his arms crossed. All you do is play that flute and swear at everybody. Your genjutsus aren't even that effective. The only reason why Lord Orochimaru keeps you around is because you survived the cursed seal. Yuya looked to her right to see who said that and was answered when she saw Saken walking past her. His brother on his back smiled devilishly at the girl, causing her to shudder. Yuya might have known the other members of the Sound 4, but that Saken still freaked her out. And she still hated every single one of them. Yuya let everyone pass her. She was soon left alone, looking down at her flute in her hands. She gave out a large sigh and looked up to the sky. Oh man, Kin, I wish you were still around. You were my only true friend. With that said, she ran back to the group to join them. In the trees where Yuya once was, number 5 was watching them up in the trees. The woman gave out a wicked chuckle. How delicious. Those little morsels will lead us straight to the child. I want you to follow them. A shadow of large figure stood hunched over on a branch behind her. The creature's voice was wild and dark. And when I find them, feast on all their flesh. The creature then made a noise as if it were growling and licking its lips, but the boy and his friends are mine and mine alone understood. Of course, the creature exploded into a cloud of darkness, leaving number 5 by herself looking at the retreating form of Tayuya. Simply delicious. Tayuya caught up to the group and sighed out loud, how much freaking longer till we get there? Sakin turned around, looked at Tayuya and looked back as if he didn't care she was there. It should be another 3 days at this pace. Tayuya, not satisfied with this answer, asked her own, then why don't we pick up the pace and make it there by sunset? This time Kidomaru turned around and looked at Tayuya as if she were stupid. Are you that dumb? Lord Orochimaru wanted us there on precisely the 4th day for the mission, no earlier no later. Tayuya just smiled and nodded while giving Kidomaru the finger, and then muttered to herself. Screw the pedophile. What was that, Tayuya? Oh, nothing, limp dick. So are we going to set up camp then tonight? Jirobu smiled. No, if the map here is correct, there's a village close by. We can stop there and rest. Tayuya crossed her arms and glared at the chubby ninja who seemed to be smiling. What's so funny, fat ass? You see, this village was the one we've been pillaging. I am sure they will be more than grateful to have us there, that is if they don't want to die. The group traveled some more until they found a group of small children playing in the middle of the road. Tayuya couldn't help but smirk as she watched them play their game. It was 2 little girls and a boy who seemed no older than 6. The group of children saw the sound ninjas approaching and recognized them right off the bat. The little boy stood up and pointed his finger towards them. You're those bad men from Sound back to hurt us again. Kidomaru smiled and walked up to the boy, looking down at him. So what if we are? What are you going to do about it? The 2 little girls backed off a little scared, but the boy just squinted his eyes and threw a punch at the 6-armed man, only to have his punch caught and pushed to the ground, where the little boy started to cry. Tayuya's eyes suddenly shot open in shock and fear as she started to remember her abusive past. Kidomaru picked up the boy high in the air with all 6 of his arms and started to squeeze him. The little boy shouted in pain, breaking Tayuya out of her trip into her past and glare at Kidomaru. Not so tough now, kids, are you? Put him down. Kidomaru ignored Tayuya and smiled at the child who he was causing pain. I said put him down now. Or I will beat the living shit out of you. Kidomaru dropped the child to the ground that ran off with the 2 girls following him. Kidomaru turned around and smiled at a fuming red head. What's wrong, Tayuya? Bring back bad memories of Papa. Tayuya's eyes went wide as she stormed forward and slapped the ninja across the face hard. How dare you? Remember to never say that again to me ever. Kidomaru smiled and felt his lip to see if it was bleeding, which it was. He slowly nodded and then frowned and backhanded Tayuya across the face, causing her to fall to her knees. She too felt her lip to see that it was bleeding and glared up at the spider freak. The said freak knelt down to her level and whispered in her ear in the most evil and creeping voice she had ever heard. And you remember that you're the weakest out of all of us, and you can be easily replaced by the flick of the wrist. The whole group left smiling at the scene before them, leaving a fuming Tayuya behind. In the courtroom back at the village, Kin sat hands tied together in a seat in the middle of a room surrounded by the whole village. Beside her, Naruto and Ino sat on each side giving her support. In front of them, sitting at a large table, the village head, who happened to be a large balding old man, sat listening carefully to what Kyuubi was saying that was still in his human form. You see, Kin has already said that she did in fact commit crimes against this village. Everybody in the building nodded their heads and agreed, but she also admitted that she did not steal or kill, which was agreed by you, Your Honor, and Kamaza, that she did in fact have no connections to these acts. I ask you not to charge her of these crimes. But she was with the group of ninjas who attacked us and did nothing. If she was indeed good as you say, she would have tried and stopped them. Kamaza walked up beside Kyuubi and turned to all the villagers. If she is as good as you say, she would have stopped the torment and saved my father, who is no longer with us. He then pointed to Kin, who seemed to be looking down to the ground in sorrow. But you did nothing. The village cheered and agreed with the boy and clapped. Kyuubi turned back to the village head and tried to protest, but was stopped by his hand. I am sorry, Sir Ninja, but the final word is always said by the one who charged the accusation, which in this case is Kamaza. That is our law. Kamaza stepped up beside Kyuubi and placed a hand on his shoulder. You put up an honorable protest. The Kyuubi just sighed. Yeah, whatever. But my option still stays the same, Kintsuchi, I find you guilty. Everyone jumped out of their seats and cheered except for Naruto and Ino, who seemed extremely pissed. Naruto stood up and even smashed the chair he was sitting on. Just then the three children ran into the courtroom panting, and towards the village head. They tried speaking to him but he couldn't hear them with all the cheering and clapping. Shut up. Everyone silenced immediately. Now child, you were saying. The boy panted and tried to catch his breath. Sound nins, coming this way. At least 14, everyone gasped and started to get scared. Kamaza stepped forward and shouted. They won't get us this time. All able men take up arms, women and children will stay here for their own protection. All the men yelled and gabbed what weapons they could and started for the door. Before Kamaza joined them, he walked up to the boy and gave him a dagger. All right kid, I want you to stay here and watch over her. If she makes any funny moves, kill her, you got that? The child nodded and Kamaza was out the door. Kyuubi looked over to Naruto, who seemed to be smiling. I get the feeling you want to help them out, don't you? Naruto turned to Kyuubi and nodded. Yeah, I got some bent-up anger that I can't wait to unleash on these sound bastards, plus these villagers are out of their league and would be slaughtered in a minute. Kyuubi grinned. Yeah, and I am pretty hungry, some sound flesh, which sounds pretty good right about now. As they started to walk off, they could see Ino following them out the door. The Kyuubi stopped this right away. No Ino, you stay here and watch over Kin and the villagers if any of them get past us. But I am not some child, I can fight too. Naruto smiled. Don't worry Ino-chan, you'll get your chance soon enough. And Kin? Kin looked up at Naruto. Try to stay out of trouble while we're gone. Kin simply chuckled. Hard to do that when you're tied up, really. If anyone could find a way to do it, it would be you, Kin-chan. Outside on the edge of the village, Kamaza was kneeling on the ground with a bloody face and a broken arm. Around him 4 dead villagers laid on the ground with the rest behind the boy, too afraid to move. In front of Kamaza stood 7 Chunin and the Sound 4, all laughing except for Tayuya, who had a stern look. Why are you fighting? Just run and no one will get hurt. Jirobu stepped forward and grabbed a lock of Kamaza's hair, lifted him off the ground. Kiss my feet and I'll spare your life. And never. I have to agree with the kid. Everyone's attention was turned to Kyuubi and Naruto, who were walking through the crowd. They stopped in front of the large Sound Nin and Naruto had his arms crossed and grinning. I can't stand looking at your fat ass. I can't imagine me kissing it. Tayuya was speechless once looking at Naruto. The kid's got guts, and he's not a bad looker. Hopefully he can back it up. Jirobu dropped Kamaza and turned his attention towards Naruto. What the hell are you weak leaf nins doing here? Do you know who we are? Naruto removed his smile and replaced it with a serious look. A dead man if you don't leave now. Jirobu started to laugh out loud. I like to see you T. He never got to finish his sentences. Naruto disappeared and Jirobu was launched backwards into a tree. Everybody was amazed except for Kyuubi, who stood there as if nothing happened. They all followed to where Jirobu used to be to see Naruto knelt down with his elbow out. One of the Chunins got restless and decided to take action. Stupid brat, I'll cut you down. Naruto looked to his right to see the Chunin coming down on him with his blade ready. His movements were in slow motion for Naruto, who simply turned to his left to dodge the strike. Once the Chunin landed on the ground and stood up surprised that he missed Naruto. Naruto quickly gave a karate chop to the mon's throat, breaking his windpipe and killing him on the spot. All the Chunins and villagers stepped back in fear and surprise at how fast the boy was. Tayuya smiled to herself. This little shit is pretty good, I can't wait to fight him. Her attention was broken when Jirobu was starting to get up and groan. You little bastard, we'll show you that you're messing with the Sound 4 real demons. All 4 of the squad activated the second stage of their curse seals and transformed into their devil forms. The group smiled, thinking that this would make Naruto piss his pants in fear, but was terribly wrong when Naruto and Kyuubi started to laugh out loud. What's so funny, you prick? You scared, stupid? Naruto wiped the tear from his eye and smiled. Me scared, no. Hey pops, mind if you take the Chunins? The Kyuubi uncrossed his arms and got into a battle position. That's fine with me, son, but why do you want to take all the fun? Naruto gets serious again and stared down the Sound 4. Because I want to show these humans what happens when you try to impersonate a demon. Naruto threw off his scarf, showing his canines, and he cracked his clawed hands and threw his arms to the side and summoned a huge amount of red demonic chakra which covered his whole body. He stared at the stunned Sound 4 and smiled. When you're in front of a demon, Naruto Uzumaki, fox demon and son of the great and powerful Kyuubi. Naruto threw off his scarf showing his canines, he cracked his clawed hands and threw his arms to the side and summoned a huge amount of red demonic chakra which covered his whole body. He stared at the stunned Sound 4 and smiled. When you're in front of a demon, Naruto Uzumaki, fox demon and son of the great and powerful Kyuubi. Naruto walked slowly towards the group who could do nothing but stare in complete shock. Saken was the first to break out of the daze and react to the situation. What the hell? Where did this chakra come from? Jirobu got into a fight position. Who cares, it's just a genjutsu, he's not really the son of the Kyuubi, it's a trick, get him. All three Sound 4 members surrounded Naruto, who stood his place looking to the ground smiling as if he were the devil himself. Tayuya was too stunned to even move, she could only stare in horror. That chakra. He really is a demon, how could I even fight against that? Kyuubi looked at the rest of the Sound Nins and sighed. He then turned to the villagers with his arms crossed and pointed to the village. There are 3 who got away and are probably in the village causing trouble. Go and well deal with this. The villagers gladly complied and ran back into the village to go and look for the other ninjas. 2 of the villages carried Kamaza by his shoulders into the village. He could only stare wide-eyed as these ninjas, who they threatened to imprison one of their comrades, was now risking their lives for them, and over again the same question went through his head, why? Kyuubi walked up to the remaining 6 Sound Nins who had their swords drawn and ready to fight. The group surrounded the Kyuubi and slowly advanced until one of the ninjas spoke. Wait a second, that kid said he was the son of the Kyuubi. Another ninja looked over at his comrade from the corner of his eye. So what? That kid then called this guy father, then that means. Kyuubi smiled. That's right, mortal, you're dealing with the great and powerful Kyuubi. One of the ninjas yelled back, you're lying, you don't look like the 9-tailed fox to me. Want to find out? The ninja who first made the connection felt the chakra flow from the Kyuubi and dropped his sword, backing out of the fight slowly. The Kyuubi saw this and nodded towards the human. Smart choice. The Kyuubi simply lifted his right hand. The rest of the ninjas saw this and backed up a little. Not sure of what he was going to do, the Kyuubi simply snapped his finger, which was all. The ninja who backed down looked closely at the demon's fingers to see that they were now covered with blood. None of the other ninjas made a move until the Kyuubi started to lick his fingers clean. Then all the Sound Nins at the same time fell backwards on the ground dead with slit throats. The Kyuubi then started to sniff the air, smelling something awful. He turned to the Sound Nin who was on his butt trembling. That smell. You pissed yourself, didn't you? The ninja jolted as he was being stared at by the deadly Kyuubi. Only one thing came to the human's mind. Kneeling in front of Kyuubi with his head bent down touching the floor, he started to grabble. Please, almighty Kyuubi, spare my life. Leave and never return. The ninja nodded and stood up and ran into the trees and disappeared. Well, that was pretty boring. At least now I got dinner. He slowly licked his lips and started to watch Naruto's fight that hadn't even started yet. Naruto still didn't lift his head. Kidomaru saw his chance and decided to attack Naruto, covering him in his webbing. Now Jirobu, take him out. Jirobu yelled and charged at Naruto on the right while Saken charged from the left. When the two were inches from colliding into the captured ninja, Naruto threw his head up and tilted his head at Kidomaru, still smiling. Kidomaru felt the surge and his eyes went wide. Before he could warn his teammates it happened. Naruto exploded, knocking the 2 members of the Sound 4 back, covered in cuts and bruises. Once the smoke cleared, Naruto stood behind Kidomaru and whispered into his ear. I call that one Uzumaki kamikaze jutsu, what do you think? Before he could answer, Naruto kicked him in the back, knocking him into his friends. He turned around to see Tayuya perform a genjutsu around Naruto, who only chuckled and snapped his finger, shattering the illusion. To say the least, she was stunned. That was her best genjutsu and now this guy broke it as if it were nothing. Naruto saw her shocked face and pointed to his eyes. Don't feel bad, it was a nice try. But with these demon eyes I can see through all illusion as if they were nothing, sort of a bonus. You're not like the others. What's your name? Tayuya. Tayuya broke out of her shock, pissed at herself for giving her name to this asshole, but what happened next shocked her more. That's a pretty name. Are you trying to piss me off? Tayuya rushed at Naruto blushing and engaged him in a taijutsu fight which Naruto was easily playing with her. I am not trying to piss you off, I mean it, and your scent is different from the others. Tayuya tried to roundhouse kick Naruto, who simply pulled back a little to avoid it. What do you mean? Unlike them, you hold no real evil aura, only fear and sadness. Naruto's eyes softened. You're not a bad girl, and I know your sadness, I know how you feel. Tayuya squinted her eyes. You don't know anything about my pain. The two came to a deadlock with their faces inches from each other. You'd be suppressed. He then looked up at her hair and smiled. Tayuya followed his gaze and raised her eyebrow. You have beautiful hair, you should hide it. Tayuya blushed madly and was about to respond when she felt a tug on her back. The next thing she knew, both her and Naruto were tied together by Kidomaris webbing. The webbing covered them from their shoulders all the way down to their feet. Tayuya blushed even more now that her head was resting on Naruto's shoulder. What the hell is going on here? Good work, Tayuya. Tayuya looked over Naruto's shoulder to see Kidomaru smiling and holding the two in place with his webbing, sacrificing your life so we can finish him off. Tayuya's and Naruto's eyes went wide once hearing this. What the hell are you talking about, you spider ass? I am not sacrificing myself to nobody. Kidomaru smiled. Oh, but have you forgotten how expendable you are? The two looked around them to see the other two Sound 4 nins taking out a fair amount of kuniyas with explosion tags attached to them and aiming at them. Naruto looked down at Tayuya. Naruto's a little taller than her, face to see fear and confusion. Don't do this. Please don't do it. Naruto could see tears starting to form in her eyes and gave her a gentle smile. Don't worry, I won't let them hurt you. Tayuya's eyes met Naruto's just in time to see him giving his trademark smirk. The next thing the two heard was Sakin and Jirobu laughing while they threw their kuniyas and an explosion that came next. In the courtroom, Ino and Kin were in the corner of the room huddled with all the other women and children. The child behind Kin was the one who Kamaza ordered to stab Kin if she tried anything, and Ino was beside that child. Ino could see the boy was fidgeting with the blade, afraid to use it. Suddenly the door to the courthouse busted open and the last three Sound nins entered the courthouse with their swords drawn, looking around. Both Kin and Ino cursed under their breath and bowed their heads, hoping they wouldn't see them. Okay boys, all these pretty little women are now ours for the taking, and it's an all-you-could-eat buffet. The three separated and started to look around. Kin suddenly made the mistake and looked up quickly, only to be spotted by one of the Sound nins. What do we have here? Shit. Ino looked to the small child beside her and saw that the boy placed his knife in Kin's hand and was already starting to cut herself free. Kin looked at Ino and nodded her head, which Ino nodded in return. Kin was almost done cutting through the rope when the Sound ninja walked up to her and bent down to give her a look over. Well, what do we have here? Kin-suchi, you are supposed to be dead. Well, I can fix that. The ninja rose his blade into the air and was about to come down and cut her in half. Kin finally cut through the rope and in one swift move slit the ninja's throat, killing him. The other two ninjas, hearing the commotion, turned to see what happened and began to charge at Kin. By this time Ino finished her hand seals. Mind transfer jutsu. Once the jutsu worked, Ino in the body of the first ninja quickly turned around and stabbed the other in the chest. Ino retracted his blade and yelled, "Kin, now, cancel." Right when Ino got back into his own body, the Sound ninja quickly turned around and looked up. The last image the ninja saw was Kin driving the boy's knife into his skull. The two ladies looked around at their accomplishment and were breathing heavily because of the shock of two little genins killing their first enemies ever, which happened to be not another genin but a chunin no less. The two looked towards the entrance to see Kamaza and the rest of the villagers in the doorway. Ino, not sparing a second, yelled towards the group, "Where's Naruto?" "He's fighting still at the entrance." Ino and Kin ran out the door to try and join the battle. The villagers and Kamaza didn't even think about stopping Kin after seeing the dead Sound ninjas. Village entrance. Once the smoke cleared, the three members smiled, thinking that they would see the burnt remains of Naruto and Tayuya, but were extremely frustrated and pissed when they saw two burnt Sound chunins in their place. Jirobu stomped his foot on the ground. "This is bullshit, he's toying with us." "You got that right, Tubby." All three turned around to see Naruto standing with his arms crossed, looking sternly at them. Tayuya was right behind him looking over his shoulder, and she was beyond pissed. She moved in front of Naruto and pointed her flute at the three. "You assholes tried to kill me. Well, now it's payback, bitches." Naruto was smiling, but it suddenly turned into a frown when he felt a sickening chakra. Without hesitation, Naruto picked up Tayuya bridal style and jumped into the air with a blushing Tayuya in hand. Once the two were in the air, they looked down to where Tayuya once stood and saw a massive clawed hand that sprung up from the ground. The attack would have killed Tayuya if it weren't for Naruto. Naruto landed on the ground and gently placed Tayuya on her feet, that was now pissed and kind of scared to what just happened. The clawed hand went back into the ground and an explosion occurred. Once the dust cleared, a massive figure stood where the attack came from. It had the body of what seemed like a wolf man, but the mere sight of it almost caused Tayuya to hurl. The creature was about 8 feet tall. His right arm was the massive clawed arm, but his left arm was a normal human-sized with no claws whatsoever, giving him a defected look. And if that was not gross enough, his body was just bloody muscles with his skeletal figure overlapping it. Instead of a head, the creature had a wolf's skull with 4 eyes, 2 on each side onto of each other. It seemed to be missing the jaw. Inside the eye sockets 4 purple eyes glowed. The now Sound 3, seeing this, had to think twice of what to do. What the hell is going on here? Sakin looked over to Jirobu and looked concerned. I don't know, it seems that this thing is after that demon kid. Then we continue the mission and go to Mist and follow the schedule. The 2 other ninjas turned to Kidomaru, who seemed to be smiling. But what about Tayuya? She knows too much. I don't want to get in between this party, and if Tayuya is standing beside this kid, that thing is going to rip her to shreds, saving us the trouble. The 3 threw down some smoke bombs and disappeared. Tayuya clenched her fist and yelled at her former teammates. You chicken shit, stay and fight. Naruto, not taking his eyes off his opponent, spoke to the redhead. Forget them and concentrate on now. Tayuya turned towards Naruto. I don't care if you saved my life, that doesn't make you my boss. Hashana. Tayuya turned her attention towards the beast that was now laughing, which confused him because he had no jaw. This is the Fox Prince. What a joke, the Kyuubi name has now been ashamed. The creature's voice sounded as if it were choking on some sort of liquid. That theory was soon answered when blood started to fall from where his jaw was supposed to be. Naruto started to shake in anger at the insult. I am not going to have some defect from Evil Dead going to insult my father's name. Naruto started to perform hand seals and slapped the ground, shouting, Earth Dragon Jutsu. A large dragon head made from rock rose from the ground and slammed into the creature, exploding. Naruto smiled while Tayuya covered her eyes from the dust. Is that all, Prince? I am ashamed. Naruto's eyes widened in shock along with Tayuya as the beast was now standing behind the 2. When did he move? I couldn't even sense him. Naruto quickly turned around and dodged a swipe from his massive claw. Naruto jumped back and tried to get the creature away from Tayuya, which worked as the beast had no interest in her and only for Naruto. Tayuya watched helplessly and reverted back to her true self. Naruto. Tayuya turned around to see who was screaming and saw Ino and Kin running towards her. Tayuya's eyes went wide in happiness for seeing her friend. Kin, you're alive. Kin and Ino stopped in front of Tayuya. Kin hugged her friend and smiled. Tayuya, what are you doing here? It's a long story, but I was told you died on a mission. Kin smiled back. It's a long story. Ino, seeing Naruto in a fight with the demon, decided to break up the reunion. I am glad for your catch-up, Kin, but Naruto's in a fight with an Anubanati demon and it seems he's losing. The 2 sound girls looked back at the fight to see Naruto on the defensive and not doing so well. Naruto was dodging slash after slash and could see no open for an attack. The demon would use his large claw to attack and his regular arm to defend against Naruto's punches and kicks. You're pretty fast for a large fellow, aren't you? And you're pretty slow for a small fellow, aren't you? Naruto took another step back and tripped over a rock, leaving him open for an attack. Got you, brat. The demon slashed down, cutting into Naruto's chest, causing a pretty deep gash. Naruto fell to the ground and looked up at the demon. Tayuya, having enough of just waiting, took out her flute and yelled over to Naruto. Hey fox boy, cover your ears. Naruto did what Hugh was told and Tayuya started to blow into her flute, causing a subsonic noise that would cause a dog a large amount of pain and hoped it would work on the demon. She smiled while playing the flute, seeing the demon move away from Naruto and moving around holding its ears in pain. What is this noise? Get it out. Get it out. The demon looked over to Tayuya and started to growl. You bitch. You must die. Kin and Ino jumped in front of Tayuya to protect her while she continued to play her flute, but were back clawed out of the way easily. The demon lifted Tayuya in the air with his regular arm. Tayuya cried out in pain as the demon was holding her in the air by her throat and readied his claw hand to stab her in the head. You die now. No. Everyone's attention turned back to Naruto, who seemed to be walking slowly towards them. Kin and Ino were startled by Naruto's eyes, which showed so much hate and rage, but not only that, his chakra was now even higher than before. The demon felt this and dropped Tayuya on the ground, turning his attention back towards Naruto. This is impossible, that much power coming from him. He's just a kid. The demon roared and tried to stab Naruto with his claw. Naruto simply caught the clawed hand and smiled at the demon. If the demon's eyes could widen, it would now, as Naruto in one quick pull ripped off the demon's whole arm. The demon staggered back in pain, holding his bleeding limp of an arm, and started to stutter. What has N number 5 gotten me into? Naruto disappeared and reappeared in front of the demon and kicked in both of his legs, shattering them and pushing him onto his back. Once the demon fell to the ground, Naruto jumped onto his chest and growled down at the face of the demon. Hell, was the only word Naruto said before he started to pound in the skull of the demon. Once the head was shattered and smashed, the demon child then went to work on the chest, punching and slashing into the flesh all the time, a huge smile plastered on the boy's face. The three girls watched in horror and fear. Both Ino and Kin started to cry, not because they were hurt but for Naruto. The two shouted at the same time, "Naruto!" Naruto's eyes went wide after hearing his name being screamed by Kin and Ino, and came back to his senses and looked at his blood-covered hands in horror. "What have I done?" Kyuubi, Ino, and Kin stood in front of the villagers at the entrance of their village, about to bid them farewell. Kamaza limped up to Kin and gently took her right hand, softly, surprising her greatly. "I am so sorry for what I said to you. I know you didn't kill my father, but I guess me." Kamaza smiled and shook his head. "No, we all lashed out on the closest person to the problem, which happened to be you." Kin smiled in return and shook his hand. "Thank you for forgiving me." Kamaza nodded and turned to Kyuubi, who was looking into the woods. "And don't worry, we won't tell anybody you were here." Kyuubi huffed. "Doesn't bother me if you do or don't. I'll just feast on their flesh if they come after me." Ino and Kin rolled their eyes, and the three started to walk back into the woods, waving back towards the village. In the woods, Tayuya, back in her normal form, and Naruto were watching the scene, staying out of sight. Naruto was sitting on top of a branch in a tree while Tayuya leaned back against it with her arms crossed. She took a deep sigh and broke the silence. "I just like to say thanks back there, for saving me and all." Naruto simply chuckled. "It was my pleasure." The two laughed a little, not knowing why but doing it anyway. "How's your chest doing?" Naruto patted his chest and grinned. "As good as new. Demon healing is the best medicine a doctor could prescribe." The two suddenly turned their attention to the bushes that seemed to be moving. Naruto jumped down from his branch and landed beside Tayuya just in time to see Kyuubi, Ino, and Kin walking towards them. Kyuubi stopped and took off his headband, placing it on the ground. In a puff of smoke, the Kyuubi went back to his fox form and stretched his legs. "Man, that feels better getting out of that monkey flesh sack." Tayuya whistled. "Damn, you weren't jacking. You really are the Kyuubi." "Yes, I am, but the real question is, who are you?" Tayuya's smile faded. "And why should I answer a walking rug?" Kyuubi was taken back by this comment. This vixen knew he was the powerful fox demon lord and still insulted him. Instead of getting mad though, he simply smiled inside his head. "I like her. She has fire and power. She would make a good mate for my son." He looked at Ino and Kin and sweat dropped. Then again, it would be pretty amusing, see, as he already has two vixens after him. Naruto placed a hand gently on Tayuya's shoulder. Tayuya looked back to see Naruto smiling gently at her. This, for some reason she couldn't answer, caused her to blush. "Please tell us." Tayuya nodded slowly and turned back to the group. Ino and Kin saw what happened and blushed while fuming towards the redhead. "The name's Tayuya. I was one of the members of the group the Sound 4, Orochimaru's personal bodyguards. I've known Kin here for a couple of years now. The two of us would train together, seeing as how we were always called weak because we were women. I specialize in genjutsu by using my flute and can summon spirits with it also to attack for me." Naruto walked in front of her and stood beside everybody else. "Man, it would seem that Sound really does underestimate their female ninjas." Tayuya nodded. "I was given Orochimaru's curse seal to enhance my power." She showed the group her curse seal. Kyuubi stepped forward in front of everyone. "If you're Orochimaru's bodyguard, why are you all the way out here?" Tayuya crossed her arms. "Ex-bodyguard furball." Naruto laughed out loud, and Kyuubi was trying to quickly calm himself down before he would explode. "That snake Homa ordered us to take 10 chunins and go to the village in the hidden mist." "Why?" "He said that there was going to be a shipment of something at the mist harbor. He didn't say what it was, but he told us to guard the shipment and make sure the cargo was dropped off safely." Kyuubi looked off in a direction which seemed to be mist and sniffed the air. "This has the Anubinates stench all over it." Ino looked at Kyuubi and tilted her head. "But what are they going to do in mist?" "I don't know." He turned his head towards the teens and grinned, showing his razor-sharp teeth. But let's go find out. Then we better hurry. We only have 3 more days before the shipment is there. They all looked back at Tayuya questionably. Kin smiled and crossed her arms. Tayuya walked up to the group and smiled. Why not? I am already a missing nin and we missing nins got to stick together. Plus I would kill at a chance to get back at that snake Fago. Ino rose an eyebrow. And what makes you think I am a missing nin? Aren't you? No, I am just out for a training mission. With a missing nin, a half-demon, and a demon lord. Everyone looked at Ino to see her blushing and sinking her head down, trying not to be seen. Well, yeah, but before she could think of a comeback, Naruto walked up to her with Kyuubi's leaf headband in his hand and handed it to Tayuya. Welcome aboard. Tayuya smiled and took the headband and tied it around her shoulder. Thanks, Foxy. Naruto simply winked, which was rewarded by a blush, and started to walk into the woods, leaving everybody else. Ino and Kin glared at Tayuya in anger. Tayuya saw this and smiled while shrugging her shoulder. What? Kyuubi moved in front of Tayuya and tilted his head. If you're going to be traveling with us, I am going to have to get rid of that cursed seal. In the seas on the way to Mist, a massive metal ship that seemed to look like an oil rig was heading towards Mist. Inside the ship, the captain, who wore a black buttoned-up trench coat with gray dress pants and black leather gloves with matching boots. The man had a green peck captain's hat and a metal air filter that covered his nose and the bottom half of his face. The mask had 3 vertical slits over his mouth to allow him to breathe. The captain was walking down the hallway, passing men in lab coats while heading towards his destination. The captain stopped in front of 2 large metal doors and took a deep breath before opening the doors and entering the room. The room was simply beautiful, with statues that seemed to be in mint condition made of ivory and jade were on pedestals. And paintings of wonder hung from the wall. The floor was a magnificent marble. A huge difference from the rusty metal floors that are in the rest of the ship. A blood-red carpet that started from the door went deep into the room and stopped at a large wooden disc that was at the end of the room. At the desk, the same metal masked man who sat at the table with the Anubanati was now sitting at this desk drinking some tea. There was a straw in the fancy teacup which the doctor drank from the small opening on the mouth of his mask. The captain walked down the carpet towards the doctor, taking his time and enjoying the fancy music that was playing in the background. The captain stopped 10 feet away from the desk and bowed his head, the whole time not taking his eyes off the large thin man that stood behind the doctor. He wore the same attire as himself, but he wore no hat or air mask. His hair was dark brown and was brushed to his right, having it hang out of the side. He man also wore sunglasses, which always confused the captain, as the doctor's bodyguard would never take them off. To say the least, the man freaked him out, but nowhere near as much as the doctor. The doctor placed his tea gently on the table and rested his hands on each side of the cup. Speak, Captain. The captain stood up straight. Lord Orlock's R.E.T.A. for Mist is currently 3 days from now. Very good, Captain. Orlock's then waved his right hand for the captain to leave. You may leave. The captain bowed again and left the room, closing the door behind him. Orlock's bodyguard looked at the door, making sure that it was closed. Do you think that it is wise to work with the Anubanati, my lord? The monk's voice was calm and collective. Orlock's, not turning around, answered his bodyguard's question. Yes, Yaoi. Unlike Orochimaru, I know what the Anubanati are really planning, and I don't care. This is why they trust me, because they know I don't care, making us trustful allies. But they are demons, my lord. Orlock's chuckled. Do you forget that I am also a demon? Orlock's then felt his metal mask with his right gauntlet hand. Or so the people said I was. His voice at the last comment was filled with sadness. Back with our heroes in the woods. After telling Tayuya of the situation and of the Anubanati on their way to Mist, she was now holding her right shoulder in pain. Did you have to make sure you caused me that much pain when you got rid of the seal fox? The rest of the group was walking in front of Tayuya and all stopped when they heard her speak, though it was Kyuubi who answered her question. I had to make sure that I got rid of the seal completely. With it, Orochimaru could still control you and track you with it. This way we don't have to worry about him finding us anytime soon. Tayuya looked up to the trees in sorrow. Yeah, but without the seal I am more useless than before. Naruto turned around and walked up to Tayuya, looking her straight in the eyes. Tayuya, please listen to me when I say that when Orochimaru placed that seal on you, it made you weaker than before. How so? Orochimaru destroyed all faith in yourself when he put that seal on you. He made you feel dependent on that thing, promising you more power. With that done, you lost the true goal to power and strength. Tayuya looked deeply at Naruto, blushing a little. And what strength would that be? Yourself. You can be the most powerful ninja in the world if you just believe in yourself and not some guy who bites your neck and says that now you have power. Tayuya thought it over for a second and smiled. You're right, but there's one thing I need to do before I train. Naruto looked at her confused. And what would that be, Tayuya-chan? Chan. I should be mad that he called me that, but looking at his smile destroys all anger I have towards him. I need to get new clothes, and get this damn pretzel thing off my damn back. Naruto smiled and reached into his wallet. That shouldn't be a problem. I'll just buy you some new clothing when we get to Mist. Naruto looked into his wallet and his smile faded into a frown. Or maybe not. It seems I am running out of the money the old man gave me. Ino and Kin shook their heads, knowing where he spent all that money. Naruto, are you telling us you spent all our money on ramen? Naruto turned his attention towards Ino and chuckled nervously. Well, not all on ramen, Ino-chan. That shouldn't be a problem. Everyone turned to the Kyuubi questionably. What do you mean, Kyuubi? Kyuubi turned and smiled to Kin. Exactly what I said, child. One of my many dens are around here. Inside each one are food, weapons, and gold. We can stay there for 2 days and train for the 3rd day. Kyuubi. The Fox Lord turned to see Naruto looking at him, afraid. Yes, my boy. Back in the village when I was fighting that demon. What happened to me? It was like I lost all meaning and sense and I just wanted to kill. Am I losing my humanity? The Kyuubi sighed and sat down in front of his son and the 3 girls. No, Naruto, you're not losing your humanity. What you just went through every demon goes through. It's called a demonic bloodlust, which gives the demon in question a large jump in power. But when this happens, the demon loses himself to his rage and won't stop fighting until his or her opponent is killed. It usually happens to us demons when one of 2 things happen. 1. The demon in question is on the ropes and nearly dead and fighting for his life. And the second is when the demon's mate is in danger. Kyuubi made sure that they all heard the word mate clearly. To say the least, all the teens were now blushing. Naruto turned and walked away, leaving everybody behind. Kyuubi smiled and decided to give his son a gift and turned around to the 3 girls. If you ask me, I personally feel that it was the second reason. Kyuubi left the 3 blushing girls to catch up to Naruto, smiling. Oh hell, thank me later indeed. The 3 girls soon shook off their blushes and Ino smiled brightly. Well, it's clear that I was the one he was thinking about. Kin looked at Ino disgusted and shook her head. What are you talking about, Ino? It had to be me he was thinking about. I mean, I was so close to kissing him in the jail cell. Ino smiled. Keyword close. I am going to be the first and only girl that he will kiss. Both Ino and Kin's attention was turned to Tayuya, who seemed to be laughing. What's so funny? Oh, nothing, it's just funny that the 2 of you think he was thinking about you. Both Ino and Kin were now confused. What do you mean? Well, it's clear as day that it was me he was thinking about. He went bloodlust once the demon held me in the air, and ordered that freak to put me down. Both Ino and Kin's jaws dropped and pointed at Tayuya and spoke at the same time. You like him too? Tayuya smiled and crossed her arms, looking at the other 2 girls. What's there not to like? He's strong, kind-hearted, and not to mention hot. The 2 girls started to growl. Great, more competition. There's no competition whatsoever. He's going to fall for me for sure. They were all going to have an all-out brawl right there when they all noticed something was missing. Where's Naruto and Kyuubi? The 3 girls decided to put their fight for Naruto on hold and catch up to the 2. The 3 girls finally caught up to Naruto and Kyuubi just in time to see the 2 standing their ground and growling. Curious to see what the 2 found so disturbing that they had to go into a battle stance, the 3 looked over the 2's shoulders to see hundreds upon hundreds of crows on the path in front of them and in the trees around them. Ino looked over at Naruto, who was looking at all the crows. What's wrong, Naruto-kun? They're just crows. Tayuya then laughed out loud. Yeah, don't tell us that you big strong demons are afraid of some birds. Kin walked beside Kyuubi and also got ready for anything. Don't joke around, Tayuya. Tayuya stopped laughing and looked at Kin for some explanation. It's what's behind the crows. Can't you hear it coming? Tayuya's eyes suddenly went wide as she started to hear it and got ready also. Ino looked back and forth between everybody, not understanding. What? I don't hear anything. Kin looked over to Ino seriously. Whispers, evil whispers. Just as that was said, the crows started to squawk and fly off. Once all the crows were gone, there stood number 5 in the middle of the road with her head hung low. So you were able to kill my vassal. Number 5 rose her hood revealing her face. She had shoulder-length dark purple hair, with matching eyes that had slits as her pupils. Her face had no flaw whatsoever and she was a clear image of beauty. Slowly and as seductively as possible she took off her cloak and let it fall to the ground. Her body, in a word, was flawless. Her curves were perfect and her chest was not in question. She wore a black tank top that showed of her cleavage and matching short shorts that hugged her legs. Wrapped around her waist and covering the most part of her right leg was a dark green sash, and had basic gray ninja sandals. Number 5 smiled as she tightened the straps to her fighter gloves. Just like Naruto, she too had sharp canines and claw-like fingernails. Not moving an inch, Naruto spoke to the woman. I am guessing you're with the Anubanati. I am number 5. She looked at Naruto, and you must be the child of Kyuubi. Looking from one side of the group to the other, she smiled and slowly licked her lips. You're the most beautiful thing I have ever laid eyes on. After hearing this, the girls burst into a fit of rage and jumped in front of Naruto, blocking number 5's vision of him. To say the least, both Naruto and Kyuubi surprised, but not as surprised when what happened next. The three women spoke in turn, starting from Ino and ending at Kin. Sorry lady, but he's taken. Naruto suddenly found the ground very interesting as he was hiding his blush away from Kyuubi's vision. Number 5 laughed out loud and looked at the girls. Sorry ladies, I wasn't talking about him. This shocked the girls. I was talking about you three. Now the girls looked at each other before they looked back at number 5 as if they were going to throw up. Once I am done killing off the Kyuubi heir, I will show you three girls the best time on this planet. Tayuya slowly pulled out her flute while Kin went for her sword, but Tayuya was the one who responded to her comment. You think that a dyke like you can take us down? Ino slowly reached into her ninja pouch, grinning at number 5, who did not seem too happy at Tayuya's remark. You better think twice. Both she and Kin started running at number 5 the same way they were when they went up against Naruto. Number 5 just smiled as she watched this attack move, thinking nothing of it. That was until she heard Tayuya playing her flute, and then she noticed that she could no longer move. Quickly looking down at her feet, she could clearly see two spirits holding her in place. Ino threw her smoke bombs in front of number 5. Kin jumped over number 5's head and landed behind her, but instead of kicking her like before, Ino was the one that kicked number 5 into Kin, who had her sword ready. 5 was punched into the blade, causing the blade to go through her back and out of her chest. When the smoke cleared, Kyuubi smiled at the scene, surprised, and Naruto was just shocked. The Kyuubi saw this and smiled at his son. So which one are you going to choose? Naruto looked at his father and shook his head. Now is not the time. It's not over yet. Just as Naruto said this, 5 smiled and exploded into smoke, leaving a log in her place. Kin was shocked as she felt arms wrap around her waist. She looked to her right side of her head to see 5 resting her head on Kin's shoulder and smiling at her. That was a nice try. When I am done with the boy, you'll be the first that I have my fun time with. 5 then licked the side of Kin's face, making Kin almost gag at the feel of her tongue. Naruto, seeing this, went into action in pure rage and kicked 5 in the chest at lightning speed, slamming her into a tree. 5 dodged to the right as a shadow clone of Naruto came out of the bushes and punched the ground where she once stood. She looked back at the two Narutos and grinned. So how many shadow clones did you create when I was dealing with your girls? The Narutos took out some kunai and smiled. I lost count after 20. Let's make this interesting, shall we, Prince? What do you have in mind? Taijutsu only. Naruto, not being the one to back down from a challenge, threw his kunai to the ground and grinned. Deal. The girls smiled and were also going to jump in when Kyuubi stopped them with his voice. You three stand down. Ino turned back to Kyuubi and narrowed her eyes. Why? We can help him take down this bitch. Kyuubi shook his head. No, you couldn't. She is one of the 7 sins. Not the strongest one, but she is still out of your league. The girls grumbled and sat back and watched the fight, still battle ready just in case. 5 smiled and waved her hand downwards towards Naruto. 6 crows then squawked and flew towards him. Before the crows flew into Naruto, 5 snapped her fingers. Both Naruto and his clone were stunned when the crows blew up into 10 needles each, impaling the two. The girls gasped at the sight, but both Kyuubi and 5 were now looking around for the real Naruto as the two in front of her turned into smoke. Wind Spear Jutsu. 5 was struck in the back by Naruto's attack, causing her to stumble forward only to be struck by another attack. Earth Dragon Jutsu. 5 looked in front of her to see a massive dragon head made of rock charging towards her. 5 smiled and punched the rock creature, shattering it into pieces. She then back-kicked the Naruto behind her and moved like the wind behind the Naruto that was in front of her and snapped his neck. As before, the two Narutos turned into a cloud of smoke and disappeared. You're doing a good job hiding your chakra and scent, but there's one thing you don't understand. At once 12 more Narutos jumped from the trees and engaged 5 in hand-to-hand combat. 5 dispelled all the clones without any problem. The real Naruto then showed up behind her, extremely pissed. And what would that be? 5 turned and faced Naruto, who was a couple of yards away from her. That I am a purebred and you're nothing but a demon mutt. A mistake. You will be hated by demons and humans alike, and you don't even know how to fully use your powers. Pathetic if you ask me. Naruto was shocked by this at first but then started to laugh. What's so funny, mutt? Your words of discouragement mean nothing to me. I may not be liked or even loved, but I have few people who care about me and who I care about. I am going to stop you guys, and I'll start by killing you right now. Don't make me laugh. Oh, I don't expect you to laugh, I expect you to die. I've been working on this move for a while and I think that now would be a good time as ever to try it out. Naruto performed a set of hand seals and yelled out when he was finished, "Demon charge." Naruto then got into a running position and smiled. Now keep your eye on the birdie. Naruto disappeared and then reappeared in a different position a couple of feet away from his original spot and then disappeared again. But when he disappeared, a clone of Naruto stood in his place and stood in the same position as the original. But this clone was different and confused everybody, even Kyuubi. It was transparent as if it weren't there at all. Naruto did this until there were 5 clones all 3 feet away from each other and all lined up in front of 5. The real Naruto appeared in front of the ghostly clones and charged at 5, screaming, "Here we go." The ghost clones followed Naruto's lead and charged also right behind him. 5 smiled and punched the real Naruto in the face. But something was wrong. The Naruto that she thought was the real one, her fist went right through his head as if he weren't there. Once the ghost clone was punched, the other 5 clones became solid. 5 didn't have any time to react as the 5 clones were already on top of her, punching and kicking away. Once 5 got her bearings, she was suddenly kicked into the air by the real Naruto, who emerged from the ground underneath her. Once 5 was in the air, the clones jumped after her and latched onto her legs, arms, and chest, not letting go. The Naruto on the ground turned to his comrades and grinned while snapping his fingers. Uzumaki kamikaze. The clones that were holding onto 5 all suddenly exploded, causing a huge fireworks display and making the crows all fly away. Naruto smirked to himself, feeling proud of defeating number 5. That was until he was kicked in the back of the head and sent down on the ground face first. Behind him, number 5 was standing, breathing heavily with a cut down her cheek which was bleeding lightly. You cut my beautiful face. I underestimated you before, Prince, but now I will plain out kill you. Naruto stood on his feet just in time for number 5 to slash down his chest with her clawed hand. The slash didn't penetrate his skin, but it ripped apart Naruto's shirt wide open, showing his bare chest. Naruto stumbled back confused. Number 5 then went off some one-handed hand seals with her right hand, Buddha's poison palm. 5's hand started to glow purple. With all her strength she slammed her palm into Naruto's chest, causing him to slide backwards. He looked down at his chest to see 5's purple hand imprint on his chest. Thinking it was nothing, Naruto took a step forwards and suddenly stopped and coughed out blood. 5 smiled at the scene of Naruto on his knees, coughing and holding his chest. How do you like my Buddha's palm? The poison is now coursing through your veins and will eventually reach your heart. Naruto looked up to see the rest of his clones jumping in and fighting 5. There had to be at least 30 of them, but as before 5 was wiping the floor with them as if they were nothing, still talking as she fought. Once the venom reaches your heart, it causes it to explode inside your chest. Quite painful. The girls ran up to Naruto and were trying to hold him in place. But not before it reaches your brain, causing you to hallucinate and shutting down all brain functions, turning you into a living vegetable. 5 finished off the rest of the clones and was now walking towards the group, slowly licking her lips. But I can't wait that long. I need to feast on your flesh while it's still edible. The girls stood in front Naruto ready to protect him with their lives. But it wasn't necessary as an explosion of dark chakra appeared in front of the girls. There stood number 1 with his cloaked arms out on both sides, separating the Uzumaki group from number 5. Once seeing number 1, 5 backed up a little frightened. 1 looked at Naruto through the corner of his cloak and then back towards 5. What are you doing here, 5? 5 regained her composure and stepped forward, finishing the job 3 couldn't complete. That is 3's job, not yours. Have you already forgotten your assignment? 5 looked down to the ground in anger. No, I have not, I just thought. 1 suddenly raised his voice while folding his hands behind his back. You don't think 5 you follow your orders. 5 was about to talk back but thought best not to piss 1 off. She smiled at the panting Naruto. Next time Prince 1 here won't be able to protect you. Till next time kiddies. Well, that is if you don't die from the poison that is. 5 then exploded into raven feathers, escaping the scene. 1 slowly turned around to the others who didn't let down their guard. It's been a while, Lord Kyuubi. 1 finished his sentence with bowing the Fox Lord, who in return spat on the ground in front of him. Don't give me such formalities, you traitor. 1 shook his head. You of all people, Demon Lord, should understand what we're doing is only to keep us demons alive. Genocide is not the answer to that problem. It's either them or us, Lord Kyuubi. 1 could see that he was going nowhere with this argument and looked at his son sighing. You should get your son fixed up. Remember that just because you're one of us doesn't mean that I won't kill you. Same goes to you, kid. 1 chuckled, which in all words was creeping itself. Till next time, old man. With that, 1 disappeared again, leaving only the Uzumaki group. The last image that Naruto saw was the 3 girls in front of him before he passed OU. Kakashi stood in front of the Hokage behind his desk while he read the letter. A smile appeared on the Hokage's face and Kakashi had to ask, "Is everything alright, sir?" "Yes, everything is alright, Kakashi, and don't worry about the payment, I'll handle everything." Kakashi bowed and was about to exit when he suddenly blurred something out. "There's something else I want to talk to you about." The old man sighed, knowing right away what the copy nin was about to say. "It's about Naruto's new look, isn't it?" Kakashi only nodded. "It's all in the letter, I know. Naruto is now more powerful than anyone I have ever met, maybe even more powerful than me now. And that does not worry you, Lord Hokage?" The Hokage shook his head. "Not at all. Naruto is the kindest soul I have ever met. Even with all he has gone through, he still held no grudge against anyone." Kakashi rubbed the back of his head. "Almost everybody. Will that be all then, Kakashi?" "Yes, my lord, thank you." Kakashi bowed, then left the office and closed the doors behind him. End of flashback. Kakashi was about to leave the tower when he was suddenly stopped by a voice. "Hatake Kakashi." Kakashi turned around to be faced with 3 Anbu Black Ops. All were wearing fox masks, which was a weird choice because of the Kyuubi attack and all. "Please come with us." Kakashi, feeling no threat, simply placed his hands in his pocket and followed the Anbus, who led him to the council room. The 3 men led him into the room and stood at guard in front of the door. Inside the room only one of the council members was present, and to his luck it was the most hated council member at that. Teraki was a thin and ill-looking bald man who had brown eyes and a matching beard that went down to his chest. He wore the regular red uniform of a council member and was sitting down in his seat among all the others. "Ah, Kakashi-sensei. Just the ninja I wanted to see." Kakashi, already not liking where this was going, answered as less venomous as possible, which was pretty hard to do in itself. "If you only summon me to say hello, I will take my leave, for I have things to do." "I bet you do, but before you go I wish to know all about your encounter with one Uzumaki Naruto." Kakashi squinted his eyes in anger. "One, I don't have a clue what you're talking about, and second, any and all information is for the Hokage to know, not you." Teraki smiled. "The Hokage's not getting any younger, Master Ninja, and he has not picked a replacement, for when he dies, God forbid, we the council will be in charge until a new Hokage is appointed. So yes, Kakashi, it is my business to know." Kakashi smirked, seeing that Teraki was starting to get frustrated. "The topic has suddenly slipped my mind. It would be a pity if anything happened to your students, wouldn't it, Kakashi?" This caused the copycat ninja to go into shock. "I mean, they're only genins and accidents do happen. I mean, little Sakura and Sasuke might be even found dead the next day." Kakashi was about to jump at Teraki if it weren't for the 3 Anbu who were now blocking his path with blades ready. My Kakashi, to attack a council member is a crime punishable by death. Try to stay calm. You would attack children. They are not children. They are tools of war just like you. Now that information, please." Shit. In Kyuubi's den, Naruto slowly opened his eyes to see a stone ceiling. His guess was that he was in a cave. "What the hell hit me?" Hearing his voice, Ino and Tayuya rushed to his side and laid him back down. Naruto looked down to see he wasn't wearing his shirt and the Buddha's poison palm was now red, not purple. Naruto felt his chest and sighed. What happened? The Kyuubi walked up to the four and laid down in front of them. We had to get that poison out of you before you died. Not even the healing power of a demon can cure the Buddha's poison palm, so we had to get the blood out of your system the hard way. How did you do that? Kin raised her hand and blushed. I used my needles and drained your infected blood from the hand imprint. Naruto nodded but asked another question, but how did the poison get out of my system? This time Ino and Tayuya rose, their hands blushing. We sucked the blood out of your arms and legs before it reached any vital organs. Naruto was stunned at first but all of a sudden pulled all three in for a group hug. Thanks you guys, I don't know what I would have done without you. All three girls closed their eyes and smiled of the feeling of being hugged by the source of their affection, but it was soon broken and all three were glaring at each other, noticing the others blushing. Naruto let go of the hug and turned to his smiling father. How long was I out? Kyuubi went back to his serious domineer. 2 days. Tomorrow we will be in mist by noon, if what your red-haired woman says is true. The shipment of whatever it is will be there by midnight, giving you all time to relax and get ready. He looked at everyone who seemed to be worried at the look he had. Headbands come off right away, and Naruto, you will place a powerful henge on yourself. Last thing we need is for them to find out about us. Kyuubi looked over at Tayuya. You my dear will get new clothing in mist. Price is no object, and I suggest that you all purchase new supplies. Kyuubi then smiled, which caused everyone except Naruto to shudder. And for all of you I have some presents, please follow me. Kyuubi then got up and motioned everyone to follow him, which they did. They entered another part of the cave which was pitch black until Kyuubi whistled and the room was suddenly lit by torches that turned on by themselves. Just as the torches lit up, so did the group sizes. In front of them were thousands of weapons on the walls of the cave and on stands that lined up until the back of the cave, which was the size of a football stadium. Kyuubi could see the gleam in their eyes and smiled. Help yourselves. The girls ran down the room like kids in a candy store, but Naruto just stood his ground smiling. Thanks Dad. Don't thank me yet. I have a special gift for you my boy, think of it as a late birthday present. Naruto looked at Kyuubi questionably. He then followed his father's line of vision at a mantle behind him. On the mantle was a large scythe, but this was no normal scythe. The size of the weapon itself was just 5'6" with a pitch black handle that curved a little until it hit the top, which held the blade. The blade was a pure blood red color. Resting on top of the blade was a large fox skull that hugged the whole top of the blade, giving it a demonic look. Naruto slowly picked up the weapon and whistled. It's as light as a feather. Kyuubi smiled at his reaction. Yes, the blade is a mixture of mithril, diamond, and titanium. The blade was then dipped in the joined blood of all the demon lords, even myself, and fused with all our combined chakra. It could cut a human in half like a hot knife through butter. Be careful with it now. Naruto looked up from the blade to his dad. But wouldn't a scythe be a little hard to use in a fight with other ninjas? I am not being a jerk, but isn't a little bulky. That's why there's a second part to this weapon. Look closely. Naruto did as he was told and could see that when the pole started to bend there was a slit on it. Naruto slowly pulled on the bottom part of the pole to see that it was a katana hidden within the scythe. The blade of the sword was the same color as the scythe. I call this weapon the grip of death. I don't know what to say. Kyuubi chuckled. No need to thank me, just think of it as the present for all those birthdays that I missed. Naruto dropped the grip of death on the floor and ran over, hugging the Kyuubi. Thank you. That's no problem, but do you want your women to see you hugging me? Naruto stood up and whipped the tears from his eyes. I don't care who knows, I finally have a family to call my own. Oh, isn't that so sweet? The two demons looked behind them to see the girls holding their weapons of choice. Kin had different katana than before. It was slightly larger than her original and had a royal blue handle with a matching sheath. Ino carried 2 large straight daggers that were attached to each side of her waist. Tayuya had a spear strapped to her back. It looked angelic with a red ruby in the center of the blade. Kin pushed Tayuya and laughed. Don't be mean, Tayuya. I think it's wonderful that they love each other. Ino then smiled. I know, I mean women love a man who can show his feelings. Naruto blushed and sunk his head, while Kyuubi just shook his head, knowing that they were only doing this to see his son blush. Alright, all of you, time to get some sleep for tomorrow we are in mist. They all got serious and nodded, heading back to where they once were in the cave. Once they were all gone, Kyuubi looked back at all the weapons and sighed, and possibly a war village hidden in the mist around 11 at night. 5 figures walked down the hall towards the Mizukage's office, all Junins, wearing face masks. The one leading the group however wore no mask. He was around his late 20s and had black hair with green eyes and a scar that went down his left cheek. The Junin seemed to be in a bad mood as the other ninjas and staff in the building moved out of the group's way. The group came to the door to the Mizukage's office that had 2 guards posted. Once seeing the group's leader they bowed and quickly opened the door. Once the group was in the office they kneeled in front of paper wall that had the figure of an elderly man sitting down and drinking tea. The leader's group was the one to speak first. Lord Mizukage, could you please explain to us why you had my special units remove themselves from patrol of the dock sector of the city? If there was an attack it would be from that area. The Mizukage placed his tea down and coughed. First things first, Captain, those special units are mine, not yours. And second, I see no need to place so many men on duty when it's not necessary. Money simply does not get fished out of the sea. The captain looked to the ground and sneered. I mean no disrespect, my lord, but if you didn't mean any disrespect then why would you bring it up? I just feel that it would be safe to guard the dock more closely since the recent disappearance of certain members of the community. If you feel that way then I will personally send my guards to that area. The captain put on a fake smile and nodded his head. That makes me feel much better, my lord. With that the group bowed and exited the room and eventually the tower. The captain then was stopped by one of his men. You don't really buy that crap, do you, Captain? Of course not. That's why you are going to stay hidden and watch over the dock. If you see anything, even a fishing boat, enter that dock after hours. I want you to inform me, understand? The Junin bowed and teleported out of there. The captain then turned back and stared at the Mizukage's building and looked at it questionably. What the hell is going on? The next day in Kyuubi's den, Naruto woke up to the sound of music being played in the air. He got out of his sleeping bag and walked over to the entrance of the cave, all the while clearing the sleepers out of his eyes. Once he got to the entrance he stopped and smiled at the sight of Tayuya sitting on a rock with her back turned towards Naruto. She was playing a peaceful melody, which attracted some small birds that were all around the rock staring up at her. You're very talented, you know. Tayuya, knowing who it was, stopped playing, but kept the flute to her mouth and smiled. I already know that, Foxy, but thanks for saying something. Naruto sat down beside her, which caused the birds to fly away. Not very popular with birds, are we? Naruto smirked. Birds aren't the only thing that I am not very popular with. You know, normally a person would say I know how you feel. But I can't, because I don't know how you feel, but I wish I could. When I was young my mother died, so it was just me and my father. That man became a raving alcoholic when she died and started to beat me every day since I was 5. One day he beat me so bad he broke my arm. He was about to kill me when Orochimaru arrived and killed him first. He said that he would give me a home and watch over me. Tayuya then smiled. My knight in shining armor, it would seem. Boy, was I wrong. He started to do experiments with the curse seal on me and others with some freak with a metal mask. Only 5 of us survived. From what I can remember, when I had that seal on me I could do nothing but serve him even if I didn't want to. She looked up at Naruto and stared into his red eyes as he was now looking into hers, completely listening to everything she said. Then you came along, and in the very first time of my life I have felt right and strong. Thank you is what I am trying to say. Naruto, not taking his eyes away from hers, responded. No, I should be the one thanking you, and Ino, and Kin. Because for the first time since I can remember I have met people who truly believe in me and trust me without seeing the outside, but seeing the inside, and I am truly sorry about your father. But I can relate, as I was raised in an orphanage with caretakers who tried to kill me and other children who would beat me every day. At least you know who your father was. All I know is that my parents gave me to the 3rd Hokage as a sacrifice to trap the Kyuubi. I had parents who didn't even want to know me or hold me, or love me even. They just gave me up and that was it. Naruto felt something on his hand and looked down to see Tayuya's hand holding his. He looked at her and squeezed her hand back gently and smiled. Tayuya returned the smile but spoke under her breath. If you ever tell anybody about this I will murder you. Naruto was shocked at first but smiled. Nobody will ever know. But unknown to the two, Ino and Kin were in a tree and heard the whole conversation from beginning till end. The two looked at each other with sad faces hearing the stories, and Ino suddenly got a little more respect towards Tayuya. The scene was broken however when Kyuubi walked out of the cave and spoke to everyone. Okay girls, out of the tree. Naruto and Tayuya looked at Kyuubi questionably but saw that Ino and Kin jumped out of the tree above them and landed in front of the two. To say the least, Tayuya was beyond pissed and the two girls could see it. Alright, grab your things and let's get to Mist before it's too late. Kyuubi and Naruto entered the cave, but Tayuya stayed behind and glared at the girls with a balled fist that was shaking pretty dangerously. You heard our whole conversation. Ino gulped and moved back. Yeah, but we would never tell anybody, right, Kin? Kin just nodded her head quickly, but soon Ino's face turned to anger also. And what was that back there? You were squeezing his hand, weren't you? Tayuya was caught off guard and blushed while looking up into the air trying to avoid eye contact. I don't have a clue what you're talking about. There you go, the next chapter, Mist War Part 1, will be up in 2 days hopefully. I am calling out to my loyal readers once again to vote. Who do you think the reformed Gaara should hook up with? Sakura, 1010, Hinata, you choose, it's all up to you. Thanks for watching.